Mayor Pro Tem, you want to go ahead and start this, Stella? If you're not comfortable with it, I'm going to sign it.
Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a workshop and a regular meeting on Tuesday, August 18th, 2009 at 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Workshop item, presentation and discussion regarding Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity in the Convention Visitors Bureau to come forward and make a presentation of what your CVB has been doing and will continue to do in the future. First of all, I'd like to tell you a little story. There were two friends stranded on a desert island for weeks without food and water. Suddenly, a bottle floated to the shore and a genie popped out and she said, "You have two wishes," to the two gentlemen that were stranded, and each wish will come true. Friend number one got excited and said, "I sure would like to go and be in friendly, historic, and affordable place like Brownsville, Texas." Instantly, he was gone. His wish was granted. The genie asked the remaining man, "What do you wish for?" He answered, "Gee, I wish my friend was here so he could help me make a decision." Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we are fighting against every day. That's the battle and the challenge that we as a Convention and Visitors Bureau representing Brownsville have, not only in the state of Texas, but throughout the nation. We have to help people make a decision as to where they want to go and spend their money, spend their days, their vacations. Thus, we have a strategic plan that we would like to present to you. Friendly, historical, affordable Brownsville with a history as big as Texas, Strategic Marketing Plan 2009-2010. May I introduce to you the Board of Directors: George Gavito, Chairman; Gwen Benton, Vice Chair; Joe Kenny, Treasurer; members: David Betancourt, Rusty Brichot, Ruben Herrera, Veronica Baca Martinez, Daniel Tejerina. I am the lucky one to be President and CEO, Mariano Binayala. In the future, the Hotel Association has voted to have a 3-member hotel-motel liaison committee. Those people will be Monica Garza from Comfort Suites, Ravi Davi, I'm sorry for misspelling your name, from Holiday Inn, and Renee Valdez from Courtyard Marriott. Brownsville CVB mission statement: to market Brownsville, historical significance, semi-tropical climate, bicultural ambience, beautiful natural floral, wildlife areas, historical and art museums, zoo, and other area attractions as major tourist destination to the benefit of our hotels, motels, restaurants, attractions, local events, and economy in general. Visitors statewide. This comes from the governor's office. What it says, 53% of visitors in the state of Texas come from within the state of Texas. For instance, people from San Antonio coming here, us going to McAllen or the island. That's what the 53% means. 37% is coming from the United States in general, throughout the whole United States, and 10% international. Visitors to Brownsville. This is based on the walk-ins into the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau year 2008. Once again, 55% from within Texas, 35% from within the United States, 10% internationally. In case you're wondering why only 10% internationally, having visitors from Mexico here, is that a lot of your Mexican tourists do not stop by the Convention and Visitors Bureau because they already know where they want to go, they know where they want to stay, where to shop, so there's no need for them to come into the Bureau. That's why we only have a 10% international rate. But don't forget that also includes Canada. Visitors to Brownsville, economic impact. Once again, this comes from the governor's office. Walk-ins to the visitor center in 2008 was 13,988. The average number in party was 2.79. Average spend by party, $371.07. Average spend per person per day, $133. Average length of stay, 3.4 days. Average spend per person per stay, $452.20. This is the economic impact of walk-ins that we have registered at the Visitors Bureau, which leads to $6.32 million with an allocation of only $750,000. That was the investment the city put in to receiving $6.32 million. Visitors to Brownsville, economic impact. We all know that the zoo is our #1 attraction. They have, in the year 2008, 393,340 visitors. 54,299 were from out of the valley. The economic impact, out of the valley visitors, $24.5 million. Once again, the investment was $750,000 by the city of Brownsville to the Convention Visitors Bureau. Visitor spending in Brownsville, Harlingen, MSA. As you see, the largest pie, a piece of pie, is accommodation, 25%. Hotels and motels. The next highest will be retail, shopping. Third, food and beverage, restaurants, eating out, bars. Look at the arts and entertainment is 10%. You might say, only 10%? Don't forget, it includes Harlingen. I can guarantee that we probably have 8 or 9% because, I'm sorry to say, I feel that we have a lot more arts and entertainment to offer in Harlingen. And food, I think that's a very good indication, 8%. That means people aren't buying at H-E-B, Lopez, or what have you. That means they're eating at the restaurants, which is something that we would like. Strategic approach. Increase overall awareness of Brownsville. Promote quality of life, nature attraction / ecotourism, our climate, zoo, our 2 beaches, Mexico, area museums, and our historical significance. Encourage tourism, extended visitor stays, increase retail spending, and use of the special event center as well as new sports park. Increase hotel and motel tax revenues to benefit tourism and visitor promotions efforts in Brownsville. Develop and implement effective advertising campaigns and themes to assess our goals. How do we do it? We target our audience. We develop a comprehensive communication approach which includes public relations, marketing, and advertising. What's our strategic implementation? Public relations, press releases, e-newsletter, media calls, community activities, marketing, brochures, posters, website, trade shows, promotional items, advertising, local, state, national, and international, develop media sponsors and partners. In case you wonder what partners is, when we had our historic Brownsville Open, one of our biggest partners was the Brownsville Herald and KVEO. That's what I'm talking about, partnerships. Target markets, tourism. In Texas, our primary is cities within 500-mile range. Secondary, cities statewide. Mexico, primary, Tampico, San Fernando, San Luis Potosí, Victoria, Veracruz, Ciudad Mante, San Miguel de Allende, Monterrey, and I forgot Ciudad Valle. In the United States, primary, Midwest. Secondary, rest of the United States, and Canada. Target markets and meetings and conferences. Meeting planners / statewide and U.S. Sports facility guides. Texas tour and travel guides. State associations. Texas State Association. SMURF, and it's not the little blue guys. That means social, military, education, religious, fraternal special markets. Fraternal meaning class reunions, workplace reunions, etc. At this point in time, I'd like to bring up one of our partners, and I'll explain what I mean by partners. I'd like to bring up Mr. Don Breeden from Breeden McCumber Advertising and Design. He has over 25 years of experience in advertising, design, public relations, over 15 years in travel-related advertising and promotion activities. He is well received in the travel, attractions industry, market, and Brownsville specifically. I'd like to bring up Mr. Don Breeden, sir.
Thank you. Commissioners, Mayor, how are we doing? Commissioners, thank you. Just to follow in the advertising portion of this, our strategic creative rationale that we developed was Brownsville with a history as big as Texas. Primarily because Brownsville is one of the most historic cities in the state of Texas. And with our historic sites, museums, we're the number one attraction for long-term stay visitors. Historic sites, traditionally, when people stay more than 7 days, historic sites are top of the list for reasons that people want to stay. Major attractions area includes South Padre Island, Mexico, which the rest of the valley can basically claim. But on top of that, we have the zoo, historic sites, and our sports complex. So what do we advertise? Typical advertising on our tourism side. This would be a magazine ad. Spend your mornings at the island, spend your afternoon at the zoo, but spend the night in Brownsville. Spend the day at the island, spend the evening in Mexico, spend the night in Brownsville. The emphasis on spending the nights in Brownsville. And part of this, in addition to that, by using the icons of the palm trees and the green parrots, we're promoting the ecotourism side. Even for meetings, we want to stay consistent with our advertising. Spend your meetings in mornings, spend your afternoons at the island, spend your evenings in Mexico, spend your nights in Brownsville. Ecotourism, a big part of our advertising, a big part of what we have to offer. We do this through our Nature's Attractions brochures. The actual brochure blown up for you, which shows the World Birding Center, the zoo, the wildlife areas, a locator map. Very useful for the tourists. And one of the things, obviously, that we promote is our own Glass-Porter Zoo, one of the top 10 zoos in the country. As reported earlier, they have almost 400,000 visitors come to the zoo. And they had an earlier presentation, I think last week or this week, presented that they have an economic impact of $7.2 million into the city coffers. Well, this is based on a very conservative figure. If you stay one night in Brownsville, it equals $7.2 billion. If we take our governor's economic impact figures from the Governor's Office of Tourism, we know they say 3.4 days, which gave us the $23 million figure. Texas Coastal Birding Trail is one of the premier ecotourism facility that we use. The zoo is on the Texas Coastal Birding Trail. Nothing we want is Charles Days. Is it working? Yes, it's working. Charles Days, if you can see it, we've got our logo as a sponsor of this. We've been sponsored for the last 8 years. Every year, it's become very popular. We get a local school from the BISD school to bring us kids that dance in the parades. We feature them on a poster. Become a very popular item. We also promote our historical and cultural items, which are our museums. And in shopping, with some samples of some of the Mexican shopping, the Spanish language advertising with you, there's an outdoor billboard, and the newspaper ads, which is Compra, Juegue y Descansa, shop, play, and stay. And let's not forget our historic Brownsville Open, the Duramed Futures Tour. One way to get it work. We utilize outdoor advertising in our budget. These particular locations are in the San Antonio market, the new digital billboards. We even advertise on our own site signage out in front of the visitor center where people can stop and take photographs. And this particular mural is also in tile on the Ringgold Civic Pavilion. We're in major magazines throughout the United States and Texas. Newspapers, which include the Mexican newspapers, the Spanish language newspapers, and the guides like the Texas State Guide, which is the definitive guide for people wanting to travel in Texas, the Texas Tour and Meeting Guides, and others. And even on postcards that we have at the Tourism Center, which promotes the CAF, the historic sites, and again, our zoo. One of the main features, or major features, are online advertising. Here's a copy of our own website, and I've highlighted the fact that we highlight the hotels and motels on your left, it's in the box, with another thing that talks about the association. And where we put our advertising, we put banner ads in tourtexas.com and texasmonthly.com. And here's the effectiveness of that online advertising. Texas Highway magazines, which we advertise in, has 421,000 hits a year. That's meaning people that visit that website. 13 million page views. TourTexas.com have 25,000 impressions per month. That means 25,000 people per month at least see our ad. And in addition, they email flyers or email ads to Texas-bound travelers to the rate of 50,000 a month. And TexasMonthly.com has 451 page views a month, seeing our ads. That's the power of online advertising. This gives you a breakdown of the visits to our own website, Brownsville.org. Last year, almost 46,000 hits with 145,000 page views. Most of them came from search engines. You go to Google, you go to Yahoo, type in Brownsville, that's where it comes from. The rest are from referring sites. And we use our quarterly newsletter to spread the word. And not last, but the official visitor's guide to Brownsville, which we've got 25,000 that mailed out, 15,000 distributed in tourist info centers, 5,000 to trade shows, 10,000 handouts, 30,000 Spanish into Mexico. And this is self-sustaining. This did not cost us. It's paid for by advertising and sponsorships. So you might say we are travel and tourism oriented, because travel and tourism is one of the most important export-oriented industries in Texas. Spending my visitors generates sales in lodging, food, services, recreation, transportation, retail businesses. That is the travel industry. These sales support jobs for Brownsville residents and contribute tax revenue to our local and state government. Yes, we market Brownsville. That's all we do.
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. What's our role, you might ask? We are tasked with advertising and promoting the city as a tourist destination. It is said by Deputy General Counsel for the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association, many cities choose not to administer their hotel occupancy tax directly from the City Council because determining how to best promote the city as a tourism destination is time-consuming and requires some level of expertise. Instead, most cities contract with a CBB or a chamber to determine how the vast majority of hotel occupancy tax funds are spent. What we have accomplished in the last 18 months: change our image, our logo, and our visitor center. Triani, Atkinson, you've been in there. You've seen the difference inside. Directed our advertising to promote historical sites, including our museums. Targeted advertising to the Mexico market. Develop a comprehensive U.S. advertising campaign focused on area amenities. Redesign and upgrade our website to include a listing and map of area hotels and motels. Remember I said Don is now one of our partners? Here's where he comes into play. We downsized our staff from 9.5 staff members to 4.5, outsourcing accounting and marketing. Dedicated efforts to promote sports tourism. Area events. Commissioner Atkinson, you were very involved in this one. We brought Marina's promotion, boxing to Brownsville, televised on Futura Boxing Night. Over 2 million people watched the fight. Brownsville, the Convention Visitor Bureau, got it for free. The historic Brownsville Open Dermot LPGA Tour 2009 to 2011. State Flag Football Tournament, which opened up the sports park. AAU National Soccer Tournament, June 2009. Winter Texan Appreciation Events, discount days. Pan American Golf Association National Conference coming in June 2011. Security Service and Investigation State of Texas Conference coming. Texas AAU Sports Festival Track and Field. Law Enforcement Association, Auto Burglary and Theft Prevention Authority. Tourism and Economic Meeting with San Luis Potosí, Mexico. In case you're wondering what that is, although we're a BCBB, we do not pass up the opportunities to bring economic development to Brownsville. I will not close my eyes to something like that. And Commissioner Triani happened to be at that attendance where we had Senator Alejandro Perogordo Zapata from San Luis Potosí, who came to Brownsville to see how we can develop more economic opportunities for both cities. TPAF sports game. This is the Olympics for the Police Athletic Federation. Was held in Brownsville SPI 2 years ago. We will be the host next year. Senior Softball U.S.-Mexico Tour is pending. And if you're wondering what senior softball is, that's people from 50 years to 80 years old. If you're wondering why, these are not the kind of guys like when I used to play softball, 20 of us would stay in one room, eat church's chicken, buy six-packs, right? These are people that are retired, semi-retired. They get one room apiece. They go eating. They stay over 3 or 4 nights. That's a lot of money there. And they have 200 and something thousand members, and we were on their webpage for 4 months at no cost to Brownsville. How do we, and the reason we say Mexico, we send them on a tour to Victoria, to San Luis, and Tampico to open up the markets there to show them that we're willing to work with them, and now they're supposed to help us with tourism from Mexico. And what was the prerequisite? They had to spend a night in Brownsville before they left, and they had to spend a night in Brownsville when they came back. And guess what? They did it. Now we're working on bringing a senior softball tournament to Brownsville. National Scholastic Chess Tournament, UTB, TSC, BISD regional chess tournaments. Accountability. So far, it's talked about transparency. Everything you've seen prior to this has been transparency. Now let's talk about accountability. Based on $800,000, and we've already decided that $1.135 million that we sent into the CAC was not going to be manageable, so we went back and looked at what we've worked with in the past, and we're working off that market, that dollar figure, which is $800,000. 66% goes to marketing and sales, 31% to payroll, 3% to professional service, accounting, and marketing, let's say. Well, what's that mean? Accountability. You're talking, you're wondering, why only so much for payroll, 31%? And I have Mr. Juan Mendoza, partner of Long and Shilton LLP here to verify what we're doing here. It was under their suggestion that we need to start doing something like this. What it is 88, we have a budget of 84% to marketing and advertising, 16% to general and administrative. You take that into the payroll side, we come up with $250,000. Of the $250,000, 84% is $220. 16% would be $40,000. Should have been $40,000. So according to the, Juan, would you like to explain that, please? Because I think I've confused them. What can I say? I speak too fast.
Good afternoon. I think what he's trying to get to here is that out of the total salary budget that they have allocated, is that 88% is dedicated to sales and marketing, and then 12% is just regular payroll administrative costs, which equals somewhere around $30,000. And these slides here were suggested or the recommendation of their auditing firm, not us. We are just the accounting firm for the Bureau. For the last 18 months, the accounting has been moved in-house at our office. Our job is that monthly, we will write all the checks for the Bureau based on invoices that have been provided and that have been approved by Mr. Ayala. If it doesn't have his signature authority on it, we don't pay that bill. And if we have to have an invoice in order for us to write the checks. We make the deposits for the little bit of cash that comes in. Most of the money is in the bank statements via check, and there's very, very little cash in itself. So monthly, our bookkeeping department, our staff will post all the checks and checks and deposits and post them to the general ledger. We will reconcile the bank accounts, and monthly we'll produce a trial balance and a financial statement. We will then present that financial statement to the board members at their monthly meeting and go over the financial position of the entity. This is all done monthly, and that's the extent of our involvement with the Bureau. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. In other words, I and the staff do not see the financials until the board members receive it first, and I review it with them at that time, which I appreciate, believe me. Operational budget, attendance at events from within the advertising, marketing, and sales budget. We've attended Texas Association of Meeting Planners Convention, Austin. Well, you can see it. It's a lot. Let me emphasize a couple. Teams, Louisville, Kentucky. Teams, Pittsburgh. Teams, New Orleans is coming up. But in that one, that is the largest sporting event that is held in the United States. Commissioner Atkinson and Skip Keller and I attended the one in Louisville, Kentucky. And Skip warned us that we were not going to believe our eyes. But this is where sporting events are looking for hosts. And when I asked, what do I need to host, let's say, the paintball competition, how many people would come down? Oh, can you handle 65,000 visitors? No, I can't. So that's what we're looking for. We have a flag football tournament in October that, according to Mr. Tuffy Martinez from the sports park, says that came directly from our efforts at teams in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, out of these teams, several CVBs around the state of Texas says we need to develop under the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau a sports committee, which Dan Quant is the immediate past president of 1 week, if not even that we developed a sports committee and developed Team Texas. And I am one of those charter members, if I could use that word, don't shoot me now. I am one of those charter sports committee members. As of January of this year, it is now an official committee for the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I am one of those members. So I am happy to say that I'm working closely with the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the immediate past president, Mr. Quant, verified that I could say that. Correct, sir? Thank you. So the other thing, remember earlier I said that I am willing to help to economic development. Our city manager, Mr. Charlie Kabler, called me and asked me if I could join the airport people and see if I can help them solicit an airline from Mexico into Brownsville. I went to Monterrey, Mexico first time I went to Monterrey, Mexico, not knowing what it was, to help the airport promote our city. The second time, Charlie asked me if I go to San Diego, California, maybe I could help them get an airline. That's what Airlines and Airports Latina Network means. So I am willing to help the Convention and Visitors Bureau with permission for the board. We're willing to help in every way possible. Operational budget, attendance at events from within the advertising. Okay, Mexico, we have Destino Brownsville, Destino Ciudad Victoria coming up. We visited Ciudad Montes, Tiangas Turístico, Ciudad Valles, Feria Nacional, Mexico City Export Outlets, Destino Brownsville, San Luis Potosí.
Mr. Ayala,
Yes.
Commissioner has a question. She
Yes.
wants to be recognized.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Bean, generally,
Oh, I'm
when
sorry.
a CVB representative attends one of these travel shows, they return with what are known as leads.
Yes.
How does your staff follow up on leads, and what software do you utilize to keep track of your leads on a yearly basis?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Zamora. We had sign-in sheets, which we did not work very well. A lot of people would just come by and get the goodies, which I realized that was not working. At this, we have what we call, Felix, what is it? Impact Inquiry Plus that we had, and we had, unknowns to me, it had expired. But that is the tool we're going to start using. It's Inquiry Plus. We're also going to Google, analytical Google, et cetera, et cetera. We had not been using that. The system we had before was not working, and we're implementing something new. And then the travel magazines will be sending us people that have written in and what have you will be sent to us to know where the visitors or people are asking.
And who will keep track of that, or will you hire a fulfillment house?
Okay, that will be performed through Felix Espinosa, who is in charge of Inquiry Plus. I have already set training for him and myself to from Inquiry Plus personnel at the convention that I went to last week in Waco. That is set up because I do not want to come back over here and say, I don't know. I felt that there was a weakness on our part, and we're going to strengthen that.
And how do you fairly distribute your leads to your hoteliers?
What we try to do, and once again, that was another weakness that I came across. What we're going to do through Inquiry Plus, we're going to send the leads either via email or CDs or DVDs. One of the things we're going to start doing that has not been done in the past is qualify them. And for instance, when we go to state association, if we visit an association, we're going to find out if that person is the buyer. We're going to find out if he has the authority to buy. We're going to find out when is a good time to call him, who should be calling them. Then I'm going to find out what type of hotels he's looking for, what type of amenities. That's how we're going to qualify leads in the future. Then I will be able to determine, or I could send it out to the liaisons that will be us and say, here we have, please help me present them to the right hotel.
Okay, but you do have some members who pay a membership fee, is that correct?
Yes. Now, what we do, and that's, again, something that the board and I have been visiting, is that we're going to allow all the hotels to be members at no cost. The only thing they would have to pay if they want to put an ad in our visitor's guide. But they will now be members at no cost. And I'm glad you brought that up, because a few months ago, about 3 or 4 months ago, the CBB paid close to $13,000 or $14,000 to the Texas Hotel Lodging Association to list all the hotels in Brownsville, in the Brownsville community, at no charge to them, on the webpage of the Texas Hotel Lodging Association. So we're starting to upgrade areas of weaknesses. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
but that's
Yes, sir.
coming from the hotel motel taxes they provide you with anyway. But let me ask you this. The destination Brownsville, is that the result of the trip you took with me to Mexico?
What happened? Yes. Thank
Let me
you.
tell you,
What-
I met with Arturo Diaz. I was with him Thursday and Friday. He sends his regards.
Yeah, thank you.
Your travel to Mexico with me has produced several alliances over there, and it's been beneficial to Brownsville, has it not?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, and the fact that I had the opportunity to visit with you, and we've had some results, yes.
Okay.
Or else I would not have listed them.
But yet, there was a complaint from traveling with me to Mexico, yet there was good results. I don't understand that.
Well, I didn't complain. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me.
Okay. Well, then you don't have any problem traveling with the mayor to points that forms alliances that brings results like that?
Sir, I believe in protocol. If any of you call me, which you did, which Mr. Cabra called me, and the first thing I do is, what is it that you need, sir or ma'am? I want you to go to Mexico with me, or I would like for you to go to San Diego, California. I will say, let me get back to you. The first thing I do is I call my chairman, the person I answer to, and at this point in time, it's Mr. Gavito. Mr. Gavito, I just got a call from the mayor, city manager, Commissioner Zamora, Commissioner Gowen, or whatever. They would like for me to attend this, to do this, to do this. What do you think? Go. I call you back, sir. When do you want to go? Sir, I can attend. That's how I operate.
Yeah, but it was an invitation. Nobody forced you to it.
Nobody forced me because I get permission, sir.
And the results were positive. Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Atkinson.
I don't think the question whether is if he went with you or not. There was a question with how things were paid with on that trip, and was protocol followed on how things were paid out on that trip through the city staff and whatnot. That's the question, not whether he didn't benefit by him going with you. It's how things were paid out on that trip. That was the question.
Well, I'm sure you have permission to pay out the $500, did you not?
Sir, once again, I follow protocol. And as Mr. Mendoza clearly stated, that we have a formal request for checks. I, as president and CEO, follow that. I called Mr. Gavito. He, in turn, I wrote him, asked him in writing. He, in turn, signed off on it. I had permission in writing from Mr. Gavito to attend a trip to Tampico, Mexico with the mayor of Brownsville with an allocation of $500.
So you took care of the Brownsville Convention Visitors Bureau protocol?
Yes, sir.
I took care of the city's protocol.
Well, I can't answer
I
to
don't
that.
interfere with the Brownsville Convention Visitors Protocol. But you, again, it was positive going up there. You got a lot of benefit out of it.
Sir,
Mayor, if I can answer that, the only reason there was a question on what you're talking about, the check, Mayor, was our annual audit was made, and the annual audit caught a check for $500 with no name on it. They questioned it, and we sent it off to the city manager to find, and that's what all it was. It turned out that there was no problem, that $500 check, whatever it was, Is that what it-
But you authorized it, there was no, I mean,
there was-
once,
We had no problem with traveling with.
So if I invite-
He travels with all the commissioners.
so if I invite the Convention Visitors Bureau, because I open doors, I expose the city to a lot of opportunities like I did here, and I assume because Mr. Ayala came back ecstatic, and he was pleased with the trip, and for $500, you're not gonna rent a plane and go back in the same day.
It was a good meeting.
It was a good meeting and everything,
Reported it.
but the thing is the Convention Visitors Bureau gonna get into the affairs of the mayor and the city, or does it handle itself?
We don't have any.
Do I have the liberty of inviting the Convention Visitors Bureau without having to worry about,
The same
I have to
way-
take care of
the
my
same
city?
way he's traveled with the other commissioners throughout the country, he travels with you anywhere you would like for us to go or take you or anything there. If it's promoting Brownsville, that's what it's all about.
Okay,
Mayor, may I ask a question?
sure.
Well, let me just comment to this. I don't think this has anything to do with CBB, but on a question I think does, do our visitors get to rate how well you all do or how well their stay was at one of our hotels? Can we produce any of that data? How comfortable they feel or not, what we're doing wrong or right?
Thank you, Commissioner Camarillo. We've asked for data from the hoteliers, and normally we get a response from 3 to 5 hotels, the same ones. It's been real hard to get certain data from them. But you know what? I'm glad you brought it up, because that would just help me solicit this information more, because you brought it up. So we would like to have that data. Yes,
And I
sir.
think on both. I think when they
On
come
us
into
too.
our doors and we have an
Yes.
email address and
Yes,
we
sir.
know they're going to be here so long, we shoot out an email the following week. How was your, how'd you like our city? And I think the hotel should do the same. And I guess on that note, saying the difficulty or maybe the lack of communication, maybe that's just somewhere we work very closely. We need to work closely with our hotels, because
Yes.
they do a lot for us in Brownsville, and we want to make sure they feel very comfortable with the whole process and
Yes,
they
sir.
feel open and invited to what you all do.
And
Thank
well
you.
taken, sir. That's a very good idea. I appreciate it. Just to conclude
Commissioner
with,
Zamora.
I'm sorry.
I have one more question.
ma'am.
Going back to the list of events you
Yes,
said
ma'am.
we sponsor, how do you gauge the success of those sponsorships? Do you work with the hotels as far as occupancy numbers compared to previous years? And do you know what your occupancy numbers are now with your hotels?
Once again, the lack of data has been real hard to get from some of the hoteliers. Right after, for instance, right after a flag football tournament, we call around and only the same 3 or 4 hotels give us more or less the information. The data that we go by is the hotel occupancy tax that we received from the finance department. For instance, I can tell you right now, 12.3%, we're down 12.3% at the end of the month of June in occupancy taxes.
But there are associations that
Yes.
offer those numbers to
Oh,
you
I see
on a
what you-
weekly basis, and the state also provides those numbers to you
Yes.
so that you can gauge your performance.
And you know what, thank you. You're right, Commissioner Zamora. And I am looking into becoming a member of the STAR, Smith
Travel research.
Travel Research. And I'm sorry I didn't understand when you asked me, because I was going under the STAR and not realizing it was Smith. But we're also looking to buy that program, because I've been asking, and one of the hoteliers has been kind enough to provide me some of that information quarterly from the STAR. So I want to, the board has already said that I could go ahead and invest in that program, because it's well worth it.
As far as the sponsorships with the events, I would like to see them continue our campaign efforts. As far as branding the city, do you share those efforts with the organizations that you sponsor these events with, so that they can complement our efforts when it comes to advertising?
Yes, for instance, the Tennis Association, we gave them like $800 to help them advertise. We did that with Latin Jazz, where we've given them funds to help them advertise. That's how we've been doing it. I put an ad last year in the Austin Statesman and the Fiesta San Antonio magazine for Latin Jazz. Those are things that we're trying to do and improve on. This last year has been a very good learning experience, because and I'm kind of preaching to the choir to you, man, but it's really a hit and miss at the beginning, and then you find your market, and then you develop it where you know how much dollars to put, what type of advertising, what you're going to get back. That's where we're at right now. You know,
And what's the application process like if someone is seeking a sponsorship?
Well, as of right now, it was just verbal, because that's the way it had been. but we are developing an application form that will require someone to say, we would like for the Convention Visitors Bureau to help us with this, what the event is, date, how many people they expect, and how they're going to respond to us, what are the amenities. Yes. See, that's been one of the biggest weaknesses at our CVB is lack of information and data. And I've always said that I need that data in order to prove we're doing what we're doing. So we're starting to do all that, man.
Okay, thank you.
And I appreciate that input.
And just not to leave the wrong impression, when requested, the city, we sent you a clear breakdown of how the monies were used, your $500, and what was paid by the city and what was paid by me personally. You did get that to provide to your auditor, right?
I can tell you what happened. What happened
I
was...
don't think we need to talk about
Well,
this
I just
right
don't
now.
want
This is
there
not
to be a
a
misconception
place,
that there was no receipt or
plus
nothing
there's stuff
provided.
going on in the legal side of this. I
You're
don't
out
think
of
he needs
order.
to be
You're not
talking about
recognized.
anything right now. This
Okay.
is not
I mean,
your
you
forum
did
for
get
that.
that breakdown.
Can I ask a question that doesn't have anything to do with checks or?
Well, wait a second, you're not recognized.
Sir?
I just want to know you got the breakdown. I just don't want to leave the wrong impression, that's all.
Okay. Once again, Mr. Gavito was absolutely correct. I get a call from our auditors, Gomez and Fragoso LLP, saying, Mr. Ayala, we have a blank check of $500 here. I said, not from me. I said, yes, it is. They sent me a copy. The copy, I had put a note on the note part that says trip to Tampico to meet Oscar Perez Munoz, Mayor Oscar Perez Munoz, and I had a copy of the email I sent to Mr. George Gavito asking for permission to attend this with an allocation of $500. That's how I found out. That's how I verified my part. That's all I can answer to, sir.
Okay. Well, when you requested, we provided you a breakdown of it. That's fine, go on. I just didn't want to leave the wrong impression, that's all. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, the Brownsville Convention Visitors have 223 members representing banks, hotels, motel, golf courses, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. We have a variety of members. What we've done, strategic planning and objectives, what we've been trying to do today is that we are very transparent and we are accountable. The problem with CVBs is that we're the invisible entity of almost any entity or agency. We're not like the chamber that is lucky enough to have a ribbon cutting and everybody attends and takes a picture and it comes out in the newspaper or in their magazine. We do our promotions out of Brownsville. We do our work, our hard work in every other city and big trade shows, etc. Nobody sees what we do. And the problem with that is when the visitor does show up, which is instant success, nobody knows. Because if they take off their badge, I'm at the conference of the real estate conference or police academy association. Once they take off the badge, they go to a restaurant. Nobody knows they're visitors. So they're invisible to the general public. Nobody thinks we're doing anything. Yet we're working very hard. We're transparent. We showed you. We're accountable. Our books are taken care of by a separate accounting firm. And I'm telling you, we love it because, oh, sorry. Here we go. Because we market Brownsville. That's all we do. Let me, I want to, thank you. I want to say this, okay? What we collectively do as a destination marketing organization is deliver cash to the community, immediate return on investment when we take our show on the road in order to bring more travelers to our town. The strength and the stability of this future for all of us lies in our ability to make the most of these visitors. And there's no one better equipped to do that than the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau. In closing, I would like to continue to quote Ms. Mara Gass, in which she says in her building blocks, build a place where people want to live, and you'll build a place where people want to work. Build a place where people want to work, and you'll build a place where business has to be. Build a place where business has to be, and you'll build a place where people have to visit. It all starts with a visit, and a visit starts with your Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau. At this point, I'd like to bring up the President and CEO of the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association, Mr. Scott Josloff.
Members of the City Council, I'm Scott Joseph. I'm president of the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. And I'm just here as a resource witness. So if there's any information that I can provide with regard, I've worked for the hotel industry and on behalf of CVBs, hoteliers, tourism councils, and all of the entities that try to promote hotel and convention activity in Texas for the last 9.5 years. Before that, I was Chief of Municipal Affairs for the Attorney General, so I've been advising city councils on legal issues for over 20 years. And so that's part of the liaison we try to create between the lodging industry and the local governments is a really strong partnership. And so I'm here to advise on any issues that might be helpful with regard to what are the practices across the state with regard to independent CVBs, chamber-run CVBs, city department-run CVBs or tourism departments, or if there's any questions or issues with regard to the hotel law. I wrote the article back in 1989 on what cities need to know to administer the hotel tax. And that article has been used by the legislature and by the Attorney General's office and the Texas Municipal League for over 20 years. And that outlines what are the statutory allocations, what are the caps. Like Brownsville fits in the category between $125,000 and $200,000 per the last decennial census. So you have special provisions of a minimum you have to spend on advertising, and then you have a cap of 15% on the arts and a cap of 15% on historical restoration and preservation. So there are those restrictions that you need to work within, and I've visited with your city attorney and council members when they've asked questions on those issues. So we're here to talk to you about any of those things, and I'd be glad I can expand further if you'd like. I will tell you that at the end of the day, we work and we represent to try to make it the best business environment for lodging communities throughout the entire state of Texas. And we're proud of that. In the last 9 years, we've grown from the 5th largest hotel association to the, as of last month, the largest hotel association in the country. And I think that's because we have created some really, really sound partnerships. We have 45 cities that work with us to list all their properties and all the major tourism websites that partner with the State Lodging Association. And those websites get in excess of 8 million visitors a year looking for lodging within the various communities within Texas. And they spend $30 million a year promoting those sites. So we're glad to create those partnerships between the state, the localities, and of course the lodging industry. I'd be glad to open up to any questions or to provide any feedback with regard to the different types of structures at the will of the City Council.
Well, welcome to our chambers, first of all. Does the commission have any questions?
Yes, I know that you have the recommendations from the CAC committee, and you've had an opportunity to review them.
Yes.
I know there were some questions and concerns about a special projects allocation of $200,000 for ecotourism that was recommended to be given to the Brownsville Historic Association. I know you had some concerns about that. I was hoping that you could share that with the rest of the City Commission.
I'd be glad to. I haven't had a chance, in fairness, I haven't had a chance or I haven't visited with any of the CAC committee members to give more information on it, but I can tell you that as a lawyer, we worked on a bill this last legislative session to try to authorize ecotourism as a category that you could spend hotel tax on, because we think it's a wonderful category. And we worked with Representative Ibarra Rios, or is it Rios Ibarra? Ibarra Rios, I think. To try to get that into state law. It did not pass this session. Currently, you have 8 categories for expenditure of the funds. Unfortunately, ecotourism is not one of those categories. So if you want to put ecotourism on your brochures or within your advertising, you could do it under the category for advertising. But currently, the categories for expenditure of hotel tax are convention centers or visitor information center, registration of convention delegates, advertising and promotion, historical restoration and preservation activities that promote hotel activity and convention activity, promotions of the art that have that same sort of impact on hotel and convention and tourism activity.
When you talk about the preservation and you talk about the arts, are you talking specifically about advertising monies for that, or is there discretion upon the distribution of the funds for the historic for the operations, et cetera, overhead, these types of things, or do they have to just use it for marketing?
Under state law, you could use it for either marketing or you could use it for operational or event costs. So you could use it for any of the above. A good number of cities in Texas, under their own city ordinances, will limit expenditures for the arts or expenditures for historical to marketing. That's a general practice in Texas, but it's not mandated by state law.
Now, when you start talking about the restoration, are you saying that the city could actually set aside monies either through the city or through its 4B for actual restoration projects with this funds, or?
Well, if you're talking about a 4B sales tax development corporation, that's a sales tax issue. But you could contract with the 4B corporation and use hotel tax in part to work on historical restoration preservation projects. If those are projects or venues that are frequented by hotel guests, let me give you an example: the Buddy Holly Center in Lubbock.
Okay.
That's a historic facility. It's a museum. It's also, in essence, arguably a promotion of the arts because it promotes the music. But it's really considered historical restoration or preservation activity. They keep a visitor log at that center that shows how many of their hotel guests. It says not only their name, their address, but there's a little box, are you staying in an area lodging facility? And they've shown that a strong percentage of the people that go to that center are folks who are staying in lodging facilities. So in that, they showed that kind of win-win approach where they got hotel tax funding, but also they provided another venue for the hotel guests to go to.
So basically, with a little creativity, you can get a lot of different areas and combine those for different funding sources and using the funds for various uses.
Absolutely. In fact, and what we do and what we suggest, and we have for many years, is, and when I was back with the Texas Municipal League, I created not only an application for the hotel tax funds, but we also have what I think is even more important, which is a post-event form. And what that says is, let's look at it. It's kind of like the questions you were asking, Commissioner Zamora, about tell us about the advertising. Tell us about what type of hotel block, what type of impact you're going to have. And then more important is, after the event, you said you were going to spend $15,000 on advertising. How much did you actually spend? You said you were going to have 120,000 visitors. How many did you actually bring in? You said you'd have a hotel block of 200 room nights. How many did you actually pick up? And by having those same questions on both the application and the post-event form, you can do what most city managers call impact-based budgeting, where you look at, all right, we're going to take some of the bias out of this. We're not going to make it who you know or who's been around the longest or what you've gotten in the past. It's going to be, if you generate 100 rooms, you qualify for this level of funding. You generate 200 rooms, you qualify for another. It's not that we like you more, we know you better, or we've worked with you longer. It's we're doing it based on the impact, so the more bang you get, the more buck you get. And so we really encourage communities to look at that so that each of these entities will compete to have the most influence and the most impact on the community of Brownsville in terms of economic activity.
Thank you.
I'm not familiar with the laws. What are the consequences if the city does not follow those laws, or if the CAC does not follow the recommendations of the laws? What are the consequences to the city?
Well, there's a number of things. One, someone could mandamus the city to expend the money according to state law. They could file an adjunctive action against the city to enjoin them. That could be by a citizen, that could be by an association. They could ask for an attorney general opinion, and they've done that in the past. There was a city of Clarendon that wanted to spend the local hotel tax to refurbish their tennis courts. And they called me back when I was at TML, the Texas Municipal League, and they said, can we spend it? And I said, I don't think so. There's not a category for that. You know, it wasn't a convention center, it wasn't arts, it wasn't historical, it didn't fit in any category. Somebody didn't like the expenditure that the city council went forward to. They asked for an AG opinion on it out of the, I think out of the lodging community. They got the AG opinion, and the Attorney General ruled it's not legal in Texas to spend hotel occupancy tax on recreational facilities. And the same thing has happened to another community that wanted to use a hotel occupancy tax for expenditures for an art exhibit at a senior citizen center. City Council approved it, someone objected, they asked for an AG opinion. The Attorney General ruled that you had to show both, not only that it was an art form, but it was an art form that would directly promote tourism and the hotel and convention industry. Now, ultimately, all the determinations as to whether or not something will directly promote, the standard in the law is you need to directly promote tourism and the hotel and convention industry. So that it just promotes people from another city or another county is not enough. It has to also have some sort of impact on hotel activity, hotel and convention activity. If you have that impact, then it becomes a city council's determination and a political decision for all of you whether or not that impact warrants the amount of funding. So you decide if you give $10,000, was that an appropriate amount for the level of impact that you think that event will get, and what it ultimately gets based on those reports.
One more question. Since you've looked at the recommendations of the CAC, was there anything else that you felt was at issue besides the eco-tourism category?
The things that I would probably suggest that the city would look at, and I will tell you in fairness, I've already talked to the city attorney about this, and I believe that I CC'd the city manager about it. In a letter, we reminded the city that they may want to be sure to look at, because we had heard that there was statements made that the city could spend up to 50% of its hotel tax on historical restoration and preservation related projects because they didn't have a convention center that was being funded. And that's true if you're a city of under 125,000. That's not true of a city between 125 and 200,000 by your last decennial census. For those cities, you're capped at 15% for historical, 15% for the arts. So we just, I made a call to Mark and said, I don't want to get you caught off guard that there may be an issue, and you want to make sure you work with your cultural committee to make sure they understand that on the historical expenditures, you're capped at 15%. And then on the arts expenditures, you're capped at 15%. And then as well, as I understand it, I believe you have a number of expenditures for things like utilities, but what I've learned is that y'all are using general fund money for those types of expenditures, and assuming that that's the way you allocate that, that makes perfect sense.
In other words, utilities are not supposed to come from the CAC? Is that what you're, from the hotel
utilities,
tax?
actually, you could fund with utilities if it's consistent with your ordinance, if it was a facility that was authorized. In other words, if it was your convention center, or it was a art museum or a historical facility that was promoting hotel activity or had hotel guests frequenting it, then you could cover overhead or administrative costs, and utilities could be one of those costs. What I saw on one of the allocation sheets was a health center that was allocated, I think, $110,000 in one of the draft budgets, and I suggested to the city attorney you may want to relook at that because a health center wouldn't be an authorized deal, and my understanding is that is probably being spent through general fund money, which would certainly, of course, be permissible.
Just for the record, that $110,000 does come from the general fund and does not come from any hot money.
Now,
It's
based
noted.
on what you're
Triani?
based on what you're saying, and just so I understand this correctly, if we were to fund some of the utilities with the hotel taxes, then that would be part of that 15% if it was for the arts or if it was for historical, and we'd have to remove it from or include that in the accounting, right?
Yes.
Okay, they could use it for utilities, but then we'd have to reduce their other uses because we'd already included that in that 15%, right?
Yes.
Because we're dipping into our general fund, we have a larger reserve of money for their 15% and for their use.
That is correct, Councilmember.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
But that's not coming from the hotel money, that's coming from the city.
Exactly.
That's right.
I think you were suggesting if it did come from hotel tax money,
Not-
then it would have to count towards the
Their
15%
15%,
cap.
If it did come from the hotel.
Right.
If
That's
it
what
does, if we
Right.
use it for that purpose.
Correct,
Thank you.
Councilmember.
Okay, somebody had a question over here?
I got a question.
Commissioner?
We're trying to, we saw the agenda that we have. There's something on the agenda to bring the Brownsville Convention Visitors Bureau under the city umbrella or a division or restructure it. Based on the kayaks recommendation that they get zero funding. And from what I get from all this stuff is that the Brownsville Convention Visitors Bureau, they never thought they had to be part of this process to be evaluated and to see whether they got funds from this Cultural Affairs Committee because they're a Convention Visitors Bureau. Well, it got entangled and they came back with a recommendation of 0. With your knowledge as a lawyer and your knowledge and all this stuff, because you know more than everybody here, was that smart to recommend a 0 for the Brownsville Convention Visitors
That's a
Bureau?
political question.
You know, I will tell you this.
How would you handle it?
The message I would probably present to you is that my advice is that Brownsville has all of the natural assets you need to be one of the top destinations in Texas. And I mean, I visit communities. I probably travel 200 days out of the year. And I go to talk to communities that only wish they had the assets that you have, the proximity to a major airport, the proximity to major tourism destinations, the historical value, the kind of environment you have here, the attractions. And to me, the biggest sin you can commit is not to fully fund. No matter where you decide to house that function, if you house it within an independent CVB or a city department or a chamber-run CVB, that's up to the city council to choose. But what's absolutely important is that you don't cut back the marketing and the amount of promotion that you do and the investment that you make. And I mean, when you look at, I mean, I saw some suggestions that when you look at having a marketing department, you can't just have a marketing department with an outside firm without having some staff there to be the face of Brownsville, to go to those meetings, to try to hawk the city. So it's a combination. You can outsource your marketing in terms of your ads, but you still need to have some in-house staff. Like in the state of Texas, I'll give you an example. They used to have a staff of 30-some people in their Office of Tourism and Economic Development. They cut that staff dramatically back, similar to what the CVB did. Then outsourced the marketing, just like the CVB did here. But they kept enough people, and it's up to you, of course, to decide what level of staffing you would suggest. But they kept enough people so that there's a face. You have someone to handle group sales. You have someone to be the figurehead and to oversee it. You have someone to go ahead and look at those leads and to create leads. Now, clearly from Commissioner Zamora's remarks, they need to document that. They need to have a tracking system. And I'm a big believer, for every time you go to a meeting, you ought to have a goal. In other words, we're going to the CVB convention, we're going to the Unity Dinner event. How many leads do we expect to get? And then you look at how many leads you got. And then you further take that to how many of those leads actualized into rooms and how quickly into bids. And if not, why did we lose that bid? And you keep looking at that event by event by event. In the same way I suggest impact-based budgeting for cities, and my master's is in city management, I suggest it for a CVB, no matter what the structure is. I mean, I've looked at a lot of the marketing information that the CVB has produced, and they have a lot of good features, and they have a lot of, I mean, you have what you need to sell. And I think figuring out your niche and really going, taking that to the bank and saying, if people are coming here, if 70% of the market is coming here because of shopping and because of proximity to the ocean, then let's market the heck out of those sort of avenues. And then we can talk to them about, instead of staying 2 days, stay 3 days, because we have all these other things you can do as well. But you got to go with what people's major motivations are, try to market that, and then try to enhance that through other niche marketing that you can do.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Commissioner Zamora, a question on it.
Just real quick. Within the recommendations, there was $300,000 allocated for restricted funds that some committee members said could be used for the CVB if needed. In your opinion, do you think that should suffice to properly market the city with everything that we have here?
I would respectfully suggest that $300,000 for a city the size of Brownsville would not make you competitive within your marketing, set. Now, if that was just for advertising, that may be a separate issue, and then you had a separate fund for special events and a separate fund for staffing a CVB function. But if you were going from 800,000, isn't that about what you had?
Correct.
6 to 800,000? 800,000 in funding from a CVB, and you go down to 600,000, I think you can only expect to have a devastating impact on your ability to compete. I mean, it's already difficult when you look at what South Padre Island is using to bring people to their market, and what McAllen is using, and what other markets are using. And you got to be able to compete. And now is not a time to drop your marketing expenses, because you have your restaurants, your retail, and all the other businesses that benefit.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camarillo?
Scott, I have a quick question. How many times have you been contacted by the city of Brownsville or somebody from CVB just to pick your brain and ask you questions about tourism and if we're doing things the way we should?
Well, honestly,
Prior to a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Well, if we put the span prior to maybe 6 months ago, my answer would be different. In the last 6 months, I feel like I could almost establish residency. But prior to 6 months ago, I would have simply been a Brownsville fan by visiting here on occasion. And I will tell you that we have
contacted by any of our people?
Well, and
prior to 6 months?
I'd be glad. Let me explain the nature of my contacts. A number of months ago, I got a call from some hoteliers who said, you know what, we have a concern that we really would like to see a better relationship for marketing our city. And we feel like there's some sort of natural obstacles and some things, we just want to see things improve. And I said, well, let me come out and I'll meet, if you'll get all the hoteliers together, I'll meet with you. So I met with them, and I think, Mayor, you were there at that meeting, that initial meeting that I was at. And we talked about what the political realities are, what their goals are, and I made a wish list. And I said, why don't we create 3 representatives that could meet with the CVB to talk about what your concerns are, and to go ahead and visualize what is success. And then let me meet with the CVB and talk to them about what they view as success and see where we can't find common ground. Now, whenever I do that, I always, if I talk to them, I talk to them as a courtesy. I talk to Mark Sosi, and any communications that I would have with Mark, I would CC the city manager to make sure that there was nothing that I would communicate that wouldn't, the usual protocol or courtesies. I also made a call over to the CVB at that point and said, I'd like to talk to you about the issues that hoteliers have and see how we can work together. I met with Mr. Gavito and Mr. Ayala and talked to them about their wish list, and then have been talking back with the hoteliers and the CVB. I've talked to Commissioner Zamora. I've talked to your city attorney. And so that's the nature of the communications. And the goal is to try to create the best, most productive, most cooperative relationship. And I think there's a lot of strong personalities. There's a lot of history. But the beauty is that can all be channeled, I think, into some really incredible efforts. And I think you have a lot of great hoteliers who are really committed to try to make sure that this huge investment they have in Brownsville is a success. And we're going to do everything we can to help them.
Well, I would like to see a more united CVB with the city, and more marketing to bring events in than waiting for them to come in. Going out to the market and finding out what is it that we want to bring, and focus on our assets, like you said, historical, sports, the geographic location with Mexico, but not only to the north, but also to the south. As he pointed out, Mariano Ayala, that one trip brought a lot of results, because I've heard some good things from him. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to go out there, but we need to do it together, working together in unity.
It's all about partnerships, and you don't have to recreate the wheel. You look at who's in your competitive set and why are they beating you. You look at the groups that they're getting and what do you have to offer, because I guarantee you what every group is doing is they're looking, every CVB that is worth their salt looks at what other people in their competitive set, what groups, they look at your calendar of events, they look at their calendar, they look at what's going to the CVB, they figure out who's going where and how can they beat them at it.
And I see that all the time, because I see other cities with the mayors, and they have the chamber and they have the CVB there, and that says a lot. you know?
It does, and the more that you brag, and the more that you, and you know they say they ain't bragging if it's true, and you have a lot to brag about and a lot that's true here. And the more that you can get that word out, and that's why I think, again, the marketing of it, and, well, nobody wants to visit a community that doesn't have any history or any arts or doesn't invest in the fabric of what that community can be. And that's, I mean, I sit on the board of a major arts group in Austin, and I firmly believe in that. At the same time, to get people here, the job one is to get people here for the reasons they traditionally come here. So if they are not, if the reason they would put on their visitor survey is, I'm not coming here because I want to go to the museum or because I want to go to that arts event, I'm coming here because of reason A, reason B, and reason C, that's where I'd use reason A, reason B, and reason C as the major sort of focus of your marketing campaign, and make that your cake and the rest your frosting. And when you look at your funding and how you allocate it, look at, we got in, like any business, you invest where you're going to get the most return, where your customers say their motivations lie. And that's where I think when you do your visitor surveys, and I heard a question about that earlier, ask them what brought them to, you know, and every hotel knows where they get their business. And when I call to make a reservation in Brownsville, they're going to ask me if I'm here for business or leisure, I'm part of a convention, because they're going to code me as to what type of business I fall into and what market segment. And they know what percentage of their business is leisure, what percentage is business, what percentage is group. They know what percentage is walk-in. They know how that changes between shoulder season and high season and low season. And they know whether it's growing or declining. And so that's where the CVB and the hotels can partner to say, we can tell you what our customer profile is, and they can cumulatively get that and say, now how do we grow it? How do we retain it? And what are the appropriate niches, and what's our best investment?
Now, like during these times right now, my opinion is, I don't know if it's shared by the commission, but this is not the time to cut back on marketing, but to increase the marketing in order to bring events here. That's the way I see it. But we need a marketing plan that we get to guide us and to stay on top of it and monitor it and tweak it as we go. But we need to be out there. Where is it that we want to be in the market to bring here to where the other components come into play? The zoo, the museum, the beach, Mexico is offered, but I don't know if we're doing that, and I don't get that sense that we're doing that. That's my opinion.
Mayor, I would absolutely,
Commissioner
I would absolutely share that. That's that marketing is the investment is. It's more important, the investment in marketing, when you're competing for fewer people than it is when you have a great economy.
I think another problem that we have here in Brownsville, and just can't give my opinion, is that you have, like our airport, we have a marketing person out there that's never dealt with our Convention and Visitors Bureau. But we have our own marketing here with, I guess, with the CBV, with Mr. Breeden here, who's well-known and does a great job. When we subsidize the airport, we subsidize all that stuff. Why are we using two marketers when we can get rid of one and have the CBV do it themselves? I think we're duplicating. And, you know, we're going through a budget crunch right now, and those are things that I told Larry Brown, hey, why do we have that guy over there? You know, drop him, let's use what we have here through our CBV. Another problem that I see here, and I used to be in this business, is the major street from, the major highway from Monterey to Reynosa. Everybody that I talk to, and in McAllen, people from Brownsville that live in McAllen, like, Charlie, how come they don't advertise the zoo on that Monterey highway? How come they don't advertise the fact that we have all these things here in Brownsville? I mean, people visit McAllen from Monterey because it's a straight shot, and they come visit the outlet mall in Mercedes, but we don't have nothing that says, hey, come to our zoo here, come to. And I think the zoo has their own marketing people, too. Everybody has their own marketing thing, and nobody's on the same page. And everybody thinks they're doing what they're doing, but there's just been a lot of lack of communication. And even driving back from San Antonio down here, you don't really see a lot of maybe a couple places where you see the zoo, but Brownsville has a historic Brownsville. I think we just need to capitalize on where we're getting our people from. Monterey's the biggest population around closest to Brownsville. And we're not taking advantage of that by not marketing down there. You know what I mean? And I'd like to see more of that, more billboards on that major highway, because everybody that I talk to in McAllen, they're like, you know, and they're marketing sometimes the zoo. Harlingen markets our zoo. We should market their Iwo Jima. We got to think outside the box and then just promoting Brownsville. We'd like to say there's South Padre Island, there's Harlingen, we need to think outside the box. And more of that just comes through communication. But I understand where the mayor's coming from, where he says he might not see it, but we're hearing it. We're getting a presentation, and I think they have a video too that they just came out with, and maybe they can come and show it to us and let them see what they're doing. But at the end of the day, we're held accountable on how we market Brownsville, and we're going to make the decisions on how to do it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Atkinson, I think Commissioner Zamora wants to say something.
Yes, thank you so much, Scott, for coming today, and I don't mean to cut you off. We're running out of time, but I did invite Dan Quant, who is a previous chairman for the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau, and he's also the director over at South Padre, so I was hoping he could have a few minutes to provide some insight.
Most certainly, and let me tell you something, we have a short agenda here, so if it's okay with the Commission, I think this is a very important thing we're going to do.
I'd like to ask a
I want to
question.
hear and make sure we ask all the questions and get all the information before we make a decision. Commissioner Training?
Now, when we were talking earlier about the funding sources, and I think that there's we don't have a large convention center. We have, basically a small, we're not going to go there. But basically, we don't have a large facility.
Okay.
Now, for the funding purposes, how much can we allocate or set aside for funding? And that is a permissible use, correct?
Absolutely. There's not a minimum or a maximum that you're allowed to allocate. The only minimum that you have to spend a certain percentage of what you take in hotel tax on advertising. And for a 7% rate, that would be 1/7. What you'll find, and that's about 15%, is the state law minimum you have to spend at least on advertising. All of the rest of the categories are maximums. There's a maximum on the arts and a maximum on historical. As far as a convention center, there's not a minimum or a maximum. It's an authorized category. You can expend the money. The only thing, and you could do it out of your general city hotel tax that you have, or what some cities do is they do what's called a venue tax, which is a supplemental hotel tax that may be dedicated specifically for a convention center project, and that's what.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it's 1 to 2% additional hotel tax that would be dedicated, that the voters would have to approve, that would be dedicated for a tourism project, and that's how a number of cities in Texas have funded a convention center project. Some cities use it out of their existing hotel tax. They'll have a certain percentage. The thing that you need to know about a convention center, two things. One, convention centers are loss leaders.
They're what?
They're a loss leader. In other words, it's kind of like having a big sort of promotional sale where you know you're going to lose on that one item, but you're hoping you'll make up in the money you'll get on everything else. Yeah. So when you operate a convention center, you can't charge and expect it to break even. Course. You can't charge and expect for it to be a profit center. As a city government, what you're going to find is that if you look at the average of the number of days that most convention centers are used for actual group business, it may be 100 bookings a year in a successful convention center. It would be as successful for multi-day bookings. And so the amounts you can charge for a convention center to rent that space, sometimes you have to give it away in order to get the group in. But by giving it away and by having very competitive prices or even economical prices for your group and convention business, you get all of the hotel activity and the sales tax activity and the property tax and other tax benefits that from that increased economic activity, it ends up being a net gain. But the actual operational budget of most convention centers, they have to be supplemented by the city, so you need to know that going in. The second thing is that if you build a convention center and you spend the multi-millions of dollars that it would cost, you got to be able to market it. Mm-hmm. So if you don't supplement, if you're marketing at X 100,000 now, and then you suddenly have to fill a whole lot more of meeting space, and you have to have staff to manage it and promote it, That's a whole nother level of marketing that you want to be able to invest. And the final thing down at convention center is state law requires that a convention center only qualifies for hotel tax. You can only spend city hotel tax on a convention center if it's primarily used for meetings involving tourists and conventions. And so what that means is you need to look at that calendar of events. And when they say primarily used, what the lawyers will tell you is that means over 50%. So when I advise cities, I tell them, look at your calendar of events for any facility that you want to use hotel tax for as a civic center or a convention center. At least 50% of those bookings, or 50% of the business that is at that convention center, should involve groups from out of town or conventions or people from out of town holding meetings there. And if it's local events primarily, if you look at that calendar of events and you count it's primarily local, then you're supposed to use your property tax, your general city sales tax, and other general funds. The hotel tax is only eligible to be used because what they wanted to do, if you look at the tapes of the legislative hearing when they authorized this law, they wanted to make sure it wasn't being spent for the general senior citizen center, the general community center, the youth center, the city hall, the county courthouse, the general community meeting facility.
They wanted to bring fresh dollars in.
Yeah, that if those should be funded by your property tax, your sales tax. If you're going to use hotel tax, the majority of those bookings should be events that involve out-of-towners or conventions or group business.
Okay.
Well, then, the other question I have is, we have a Cultural Affairs Committee that was tasked with trying to basically come up with some sort of allocation, because in the past it's been basically just a handout. You know, here we're going to give this amount, and there wasn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. How do those organizations normally integrate in other communities? Because you've got the Visitors and Convention Bureau, who is supposed to be tasked with marketing, but then you also have all of these other organizations which have their own internal marketing, their own cycle of events, and they do have their draw, and you're going to have organizations, and you're going to have this conflict in marketing almost. It's almost designed that way, it appears to me, because you've got individual organizations who have their own sets of goals and orientation, and then you've got, without the communication, you've kind of got a quagmire.
Well, I can tell you how a number of communities handle that. If you look at the number of communities, what they will do is they will separate out maybe the arts function and have a separate board. Like if you look in Austin, they have a separate board that looks at all the arts-related entities, and then they look at that, and then they have the CVB that is given the remainder of the funding for the general marketing of the city. But what they do in Austin is they make sure that the CVB partners with that arts-related panel to say, we're the chief marketing entity in the city. If what you're applying for is marketing, let's not duplicate and recreate the wheel. Come to us, and we know that you may have somebody who's doing promotions, and we can partner with them. We can tell you how we can co-op, what we can do, how we can help you with your brochures. A lot of times arts entities don't have the same sort of resources that a marketing media firm will have at the CVB. So I think that you can still have your individuality of the arts groups and the historical groups, and they can still have a vision for marketing, a vision for how they want to promote. But what you want to do is you want to make sure you get them in the same room, and before they present a proposal, I would suggest that they should have to first meet with the CVB or whoever your marketing entity is to say, how can we do this together? What are you doing that we can be doing, that we can be working together on? So you're not doing a print ad and a radio spot, and when we're doing a print ad and a radio spot that we could partner in, or we could use our bulk purchasing power to make that happen.
Okay, and I think basically what you've told me is it would require the interaction between the two organizations.
Absolutely.
And so if one decided to opt out, then that would obviously hurt the end product, because you're not going to have the resources or the communication discussed between the two organizations.
I always suggest with arts panels that you ought to have hoteliers and historical panels. Like I just worked with, gave some recommendations to a couple of cities, and I suggested that they have hoteliers on the arts review panel and a hotelier on the historic restoration preservation panel, because those are the folks who can tell you, are these the venues that are being visited by my hotel guests and by our tourists, or are your events actually having this impact? In turn, they can help promote those events. I mean, example, I had got a call from a Metroplex area community that had an arts event that was a one-day event and didn't seem to have any hotel impact. We said, well, why don't you partner with hoteliers and see if we can make it a multi-day event, a juried competition. They did that, and it ended up taking a one-night event into a 2.5-day event, filled up all the hotels, got all the restaurants filled, did all the shopping, revenues went way up. I mean, it was a win-win for everybody. The arts event was more successful, hotels were full, restaurants were satisfied, and the community made a lot more
And
money.
you just answered my question, because at the meeting that I was at with you there, I felt like the hotel people felt disenfranchised from the marketing or the efforts of how this money is spent to bring people in. So I think it's a good partnership that you're describing that's not just limited to the CVB, but to all who have a stake in bringing people to the city of Brownsville, whether it's the airport or the arts or the zoo.
Absolutely.
It's a partnership also with the city, because the city also has to market itself.
Say something?
Commissioner Gowan.
You mentioned earlier that there were ways, I'm not sure how you phrased it, for an organization such as a museum to partner with the hotel tax as well as 4B.
As well as, I'm sorry, Commissioner?
4B,
Uh-huh.
4B Quality of Life Fund. Are there rules that govern, or laws rather, that govern how a museum, let's say, or a zoo, or whatever entity we're talking about, can access funds from 4B at the same time as hotel tax?
The sales tax laws are in Article 5190.6 of the civil statutes. And there's a Section 4A, which is your traditional industrial manufacturing, economic development provision. And then there's a Section 4B law of that Article 5190.6 that deals with tourism and more sort of a broad-based economic. It can deal with parks, it can deal with all kinds of different things, depending on if you have a 4B sales tax and what your ballot wording said. And there's an article I wrote back when I worked for the Attorney General's office that outlines all the things you can do with the 4A tax and all the things you can do with the 4B tax. And those state laws, both the hotel tax and the sales tax for economic development, are what are called dedicated taxes. So as long as you meet the purposes under the 4B law and you use the money for a purpose that's authorized under that law, there's nothing that prevents you from partnering with the city to use the money that you get under the hotel tax if you meet those purposes. And then cities are free to do what are called interlocal agreements between governmental entities, and if it's not a governmental entity, you just do a regular contract for services.
Somebody else have a question?
Mayor, I guess I have a comment, and I guess it's more towards our CEO of the CVB being, I guess a lot that's been directed and been discussed is planning and working with the hotels and working with all the other organizations that rely on CVB
Right.
and part of its plan to market and to see what everyone else is doing and how do we incorporate that all into one. Because essentially that's what it's supposed to be like. Maybe we haven't done that, and I guess those are things that we need to look forward down the road to see that they get implemented. Before the end of the fiscal year, and I think that's how we look at our funding and determine how do we get going for September, October, and the new budget. All this planning should have occurred before, and I think it's ongoing many times, and it should be with the board's help. And I want to thank the board for what they do. At the same time, make sure that it's tasked with doing just that. We need to look at what our objectives were, and based on those objectives, how do we measure our outcomes? And based on that, we can't. That shouldn't be done manually. There's technology out there to help us with that data collection that we need to show, because we want to see numbers, and numbers don't lie. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we've developed what we needed to then pour that out into the community across the state, across the country, when it's time to go to work. And that each and every month thereafter, we're constantly looking at how do we improve ourselves, how do we want to get to the next step, and use the step module aspect of making improvements, and how do we make a positive impact in Brownsville. So I think a lot of it needs to be done, and I just say that with, again, with all due respect to the board and how we want to make improvements, because I think they can be made. I don't think the idea of, well, we're just going to put you all aside this year because this was what was recommended. I don't necessarily think that's the direction we should take, but we need to put people on notice and to take to provide 4 pages or however many pages it was to a committee that was in place to evaluate what we do, that needed to be taken seriously. And I don't know if it was, but obviously the information wasn't put out there. And I wish this presentation probably was made to them as well. And maybe it was, I don't know. I don't think it was. But it needs to have been, this information needs to be disseminated at one point to the people that we've charged with to look at the funding and distribute those funds equally and fairly. And so I just say that being, again, with all due respect, I want to make sure that we're accountable and we hold people accountable for the funds that we provide. And at the same time that we embark with our friends and our hotels and make sure they're very much a part of the process.
Exactly.
Thank you, Commissioner Committee. Real briefly, can you expand, because I think the biggest stakeholders here are the hotel, people from the hotel industry. And you were there, the frustration, it's just unbelievable, the frustration they have that they're not being made part of the CVB. How do other communities do it? How can we make sure that these stakeholders who are the ones that are investing in the marketing of our city are part of it and feel comfortable?
I think the most important thing you can do is what you're doing right tonight. You're taking their concerns very seriously. And what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the position of these are folks who are business holders and operators, and you're saying, how can we partner with them? The challenge with the hotel industry, what I found, I did economic development, recruitment, and law for many, many years on behalf of cities. The hardest group to try to probably corral sometimes is the hotel industry. Because what other business do you have? I worked and advised 4A entities and Section 4B and tax abatement, tax increment financing, development districts, management districts, all of those things. But when you're trying to work with the hotel industry, we're a business that's open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And when you look at all the economic relief and the bankruptcies, hotels cut staff, cut operations. They man their own front desk. You'll see the owners right there with the operators, right there with their staff, doing laundry and doing everything. So getting them to be able to come to as many meetings as you'd like, or to sit on as many committees as may be beneficial, or getting them to give you data or to give you information, it's not always easy. The good news is you have a very, very interested hotel population here in Brownsville. I think they're ready, I think they're willing, and they're certainly able to help you, and I think they would be very good partners. And that's part of the reason that when I came here, the first thing we did, Mayor, and remember, we developed that wish list of what does success look like. Because I'm not going to assume that what is a challenge in Waco when I met with the Waco hoteliers is the same thing as it is in Brownsville. Although, ironically, you'll find across the state a lot of times the concerns are very similar. So we made a wish list, and I presented that wish list over to the CVB and suggested that that's where the dialogue, where they need to now start meeting with each other as to what that should look like.
So we should be listening to the hotel people.
I think so, and creating a structure for that communication not to be one time.
And let me tell you how we're listening. Let me tell you how we're listening. I've met with the hotel owners. I know their concerns. I know what they want. And yes, they want to be heard. And yes, they have a right to be heard. At the same time, they need to trust us in delivering what they want. I know there's frustration out there, but we're working. We have a phase. I'm a chairman of the BCIC board.
Okay.
We just built phase 1 of the sports park. Okay. Well, yesterday our board met and we approved a preliminary study on a multi-use facility, kind of like a convention center type with meeting rooms that would fit 8,000 people. So we're listening to them, and I wanted to show you some drawings real quick. This is our if you want to hold that for me. This is our sports park, phase 2. Yeah, if you don't mind. It required all this in phase 2. But what we're coming up with, we're hearing what the hotel people want, and we know what Brownsville needs. And like I said, it's at the baby stages. We're just voted on just trying to step into getting feasibility studies and everything. But what it would look like now, our new phase, would be something like this, and if somebody wants to. All right. And it has a multi-use, all-purpose facility, conventions type, meeting rooms, everything. It's going to sit close to 8 to 10,000 people. So part of this Cultural Affairs Committee, what they did the right thing. I like what they did, but we also have to task our city manager to say, look, out of what the monies that are available, we need to keep right now, if we can. I know we're real short of money, maybe $300,000 or $400,000 to pay for feasibility studies to see if this is viable for our phase 2 at the sports park.
That's a topic for another day.
It all goes hand in hand, Mayor, because they need to know that we're doing something. I mean, what the hotel people want is somebody fired. They want somebody held accountable. And we're trying to hold people accountable without at the same time work with them. And I'll put this down later, and it'll work.
Okay.
I'll put it down. And it's kind of looks like this, and it should excite people in Brownsville that there's people out there that want this, and we all want it, but it's going to take the efforts of UTB, it's going to take the efforts of BISD, it's going to take the effort from our 4B, from our GBIC. We're all going to have to put into this, but we need to start with this Cultural Affairs Committee, the monies from the hot tax, and I think the hotel people want that something's going into something that can make them get bigger, more hotels. Everybody's saying, let's get a hotel with a convention center. Nobody wants to take that risk right now, but if we build this multi-use facility, then I think they're going to be happy. That would give them what they want.
You might want to look at the city. There's a number of cities in Texas that have done that successfully.
And we got to do it successfully. We got to reach out to different entities.
And I can give you some names of cities that instead of recreating the wheel, you can look at how they garnered success in Texas with that. Frisco is an example.
Exactly.
There's other cities.
Frisco's a model city that we need to follow.
Yes, it is.
Commissioner Zamora and Commissioner Tran.
Well, I have one quick comment, but I still have Dan Quant waiting with the TACVB. But my comment is I understand the CVB's frustration when they had to apply for funding, because generally CVBs are the umbrella organization, and other entities apply to the CVB for funding. This was a bit backwards. I understand the need for an application process, but we should have required the CVB to implement that application process. It was a bit backwards. I understand the frustration, but at the same time, there was a need for such a committee.
Okay, Commissioner Triani.
And kind of segueing exactly from that comment, there is nothing that would keep the CVB from participating in that type of process. If they're asked by the Cultural Affairs Committee to provide information, there is nothing that would stop them or require them to not provide that information, correct?
There's no prohibition against them participating in any process, and the City Council can choose any entity. As Councilmember Commissioner Zamora said,
I understand normally it's done
it's not generally done that way, but it's not prohibited.
Right, and if they're asked to participate and they're asked to provide the information and to be accountable, and they want to get out in a cooperative manner, they should do that, correct?
Well, I will leave that as a determination for the City Council. I think
the intent was good, Commissioner. I think the intent was good.
And that's kind of my point, is that we need to, and not to cut you off, but I guess that's my whole point, is that we need to be able to communicate, and everybody has the same goal, and we need to have a unified marketing plan for the city in order to get the best result. Otherwise, we're just kind of chasing our tail and popping up things out of the air.
I would agree.
Although I didn't agree, I believe the intent was good. And like Commissioner Zamora puts it, we had it backwards. It created a lot of, I think, instead of getting people together, coming together, it created more divisiveness, and I think it was out of concern. How's it going to affect me? And when you're not in control of your own destiny, those are legitimate concerns, because the norm was management would handle this stuff, So some good can come out of it, but I think the intent was good. Okay, you wanted to hear from Mr. Kwan.
Yes,
Let's hear from Mr. Kwan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Because there may be some more questions. Thank you, but don't leave, okay, because there may be some more questions. Mr. Kwan, introduce yourself, and
Thanks, sir.
Yes, I will. My name is Dan Quant. I'm the Executive Director of the South Padre Island Convention and Visitors Bureau and the immediate past chairman of the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureaus. And in a few months, I'll have been CVB Director for 28 years in 3 different communities. So I've got a little background on how these things work. And I've worked in 3 different kinds. I've worked in an independent bureau, a chamber bureau, and a city bureau. And I appreciate the anxiousness that Commissioner Zamora had for me sitting out there, but I need to remind her I'm no longer involved in her evaluations. So, just moves on. I also am very grateful that I'm not trying to run the Brownsville one because I couldn't pass the dress code. Because, this is as fancy as we get there. And also I want to say, after watching the presentation on the proposed ad campaign, the mornings on the island, the afternoon in Mexico and sleeping and that, I really urge you to give them no funding. Because that's a really, really great idea, and I don't want to compete with that. So just zero them out, and then I don't have to worry about it. No, obviously I'm joking about that. And I also want to tell you that, as was mentioned before, we just had our annual convention of the Texas Association of Convention and Visitor Bureaus a week ago in Waco. That organization is dedicated almost solely to education and improving the professionalism of our members. We have the largest state association in the United States, and I can assure you that Bean was there taking full advantage of those educational opportunities. I hope he's also, and whoever else on the staff that can't participate can join in on the educational program coming up, the winter conferences in Granbury, Texas. And one day we hope to host one of those meetings here in Brownsville as well. I'd also want to say on his initial economic numbers when he was talking about the walk-ins, and that out of the walk-in visitors that he was looking at about a $6.32 million impact to Brownsville. I'm not going to argue that point, but I'm going to tell you the impact that Brownsville has in the tourism industry is much, much, much higher. You looked at the total number for the Brownsville Harlingen MSA was over $600-some million, and to be honest with you, we hog quite a bit of that. Because we end up, South Padre Island just happens to have 2/3 of all the hotel rooms in Cameron County. So we get kind of our share. But I can assure you that well over $100 million is spent by visitors in Brownsville. And I'm talking about spent. I'm not talking about economic impact. I'm not talking about multipliers. I'm not, so I don't like those kind of numbers. I'm talking about actual dollars by visitors spent in Brownsville yearly is over $100 million. It's a huge industry.
Let me ask you something. You being familiar with her, do you see that perhaps there's a need to work regionally with our partners here to set up something that works in partnership with them, like the South Padre Island, Harlingen, and this area regionally? And
actually, we do that right now in many ways. I mean, in a very small region, as Bean mentioned, we're a partner with Brownsville on the Texas police games and have been for a number of years. We are involved with a Rio Grande Valley nature co-op promoting nature tourism. We will promote, in our area are promoting with what I always characterize as the evil Corpus Christi and Galveston and a few others to promote the beaches of Texas. I mean, it's a matter of, and it's not always these regional things, although they're usually geographic, don't necessarily have to be. Bean also mentioned the new sports marketing group that we have with the Texas Association of Convention and Visitor Bureaus. These are like towns that are interested and have the facilities to assist people in sports, but there's a little difference between Abilene and Brownsville, but yet they're a partner in that kind of a regional marketing thing too. So don't limit, you're exactly right, Mayor, on regionalism is a great way to go into stretch dollars, but I would urge you and urge the CVB to never limit the concept of regionalism to geography. Look at it more in the niche markets of what are people historic.
Should we be partnering in sharing through a live mechanism and funding also to avoid duplication in the marketing field? Should we be doing that?
Well, and I'd have to get into specifics on that because there are some areas that obviously we're friendly competitors.
Yeah, right, but I'm talking about where we have the common denominators,
sure,
like the airport, South Padre Island and Brownsville. I mean, we're spending money, we should be spending money to market the airport, but the South Padre Island has a stake also in making sure this airport.
And we also help promote this
succeeds.
airport. We also help promote the Valley International Airport in Harlingen, and both the marketing director of the Brownsville South Pottery Island International Airport and the marketing director of the Valley International Airport are ex officio members of our board. Our meeting is tomorrow, as a matter of fact, but they've been part of that board since we began. If I may, I wanted to go back to the fact that Commissioner Zamora was exactly correct in one of her last statements. A CVB is an umbrella agency. We promote everything and we sell nothing. And the fact that we've got everything to talk about. I mean, Bean has all of Brownsville to talk about, plus when he can share things, around him, he's got the whole world, but he doesn't get to sign any contracts. The final deal is still with hotels, it's with attractions, it's with restaurants, it's with whoever. So he's in charge of pride. He's in charge of image. He's the enthusiastic, and his staff and that board are the people that control, or not control, but they're enthusiastic about your image. It doesn't matter how bad you mess up, if you ever mess up, which I would never accuse a governing body of doing, but if you ever messed up, they're never going to say that. They are going to say everything is great. I mean, they are, the term in public relations is spin, and they're the spin doctors for Brownsville. They will always tell everyone everything is great in Brownsville, no matter what is going on. They'll always have that way of doing it, and that's their job, and you should be just proud as heck for them to do it. They're your cheerleaders. The joint efforts that you made, I said, yeah. I mean, we already do a number of things with Brownsville. We've done things with Brownsville and Matamoros. We've done things, and we totally believe in that kind of activity and think that's critical. I'm trying to actually read my own writing. I did want to tell you on a couple specific things, just so you know some variations. And Scott is exactly right in terms of, and I call Scott quite a bit on legal issues, legislative issues, things like that. He's a very good friend. As he said, towns can decide how they want to use the lodging tax money to an extent if they want to set certain limits. On South Pottery Island, we do not give funds to entities for operations. The funds, all special event funding is handled through our board, the Convention and Visitors Authority Board, and we have a separate special events committee, but our guidelines now are very specific. If it isn't going for marketing, it isn't going. And the marketing also has to tie into our brand image, which means that the image that you've got here with the historic Brownsville thing should be part of the image that the people that are getting funding on, because you're spending a lot of money to promote that image. And so if you're giving money to another entity that, yes, is promoting Brownsville and promoting their event or their activity, but they're not also promoting your theme, you're actually kind of spinning your wheels. So now we're really trying to require everyone that we're giving money to, that part of their campaign is be yourself in a place you really want to be, which is our branding campaign on South Pottery Island. We do run a convention center too. We're one of the rare ones that our responsibility is at. We actually get 100% of the hotel tax, and everything runs through us. So and every year the funding for a facility varies depending on the needs of that convention center. So we're kind of unique that way, but we've got that expertise. I also wanted to say the other unique thing about a job like the staff at the CVB is that they don't have just their board as bosses or just you as bosses. In this town, they have 200,000 marketing experts. They have 200,000 people that say, why don't you do this? Why don't I see that? Why don't I see you in Texas Monthly? We got in trouble. We've got a considerable advertising budget, but we got in trouble because I just didn't happen to have an ad in one certain issue that somebody saw. We've been in like 10 others in a row, but we just didn't have one in that one, so we were in trouble. One of the things that you have to rely on, that this community has to rely on, is the expertise of the staff and of the board that you have in place to try to make those decisions and let them do it. They're going to get the advice from everybody, from you and from a lot of others, but let them make the decisions because they're making them as an umbrella. They're not making them on a political whim. They're not making them representing one entity or another. They're making them for what is the decisions for what is best for Brownsville, Texas. And the last thing I would say in that, and then I'd answer any questions, is if you ever get to that point, as most do, when you say you don't understand why you didn't know this. Why didn't you know that this? I mean, there's been talk about some of the background, some of the information, why didn't you know this or that? As I said, I've been doing this almost 28 years, and I'm learning every day. I hope I know a lot more now than I did when I started in Grand Forks, North Dakota, but the fact is, not knowing something isn't a negative. Not knowing is realizing this is something I now need to know. All of us, I think, in Texas mess up by being research poor. I'm a big advocate on research and understanding what, why, when something happened. And we spend so much money in marketing, we don't spend enough money in saying, did the marketing work? So I would just kind of end with that saying, make sure that you do implement a way to judge what's going on. And I'd be happy to answer.
Commissioners, you have a question?
Thank you for coming.
Sure, I appreciate it. Well, we're just on the box.
Okay. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate.
May I say something?
Sure.
There's some people in the audience that have been here since it began because they wanted to say something, and I don't know if you want to allow that.
Well, I think we heard from the experts. I think that's what
Okay.
we have the hotel people
I would
here.
like to hear from them.
Y'all want to hear from them?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
They're here.
That's fine. Sure.
Just a couple of words, just to touch on a couple of things. And one of the things is working with the hotels. Okay, when I sat on the, I was appointed on this board by David Bencourt, was a commissioner. We had 2 hotel associations, okay? And those hotel associations had problems with each other, okay, big time. And we had to put them together, and we put them together. And we worked with the hotel association with both of them. And then in the last year and a half, the hotel association, we call meetings back then, and just 2 or 3 would show up. Why? Because the hotels were full. We had no problem in Brownsville. In fact, they would tell us, don't bring people during the week because we had all the Maquiahuera people. We need stuff on the weekend. We started targeting the weekends. They were the ones that were telling us where to put up signs. At that time, even Mrs. Juani was a member of our board. We had other hoteliers on our board, okay? So we've always worked with the hotel association. The hotels started losing business, and I understand that. They came to us, all different people asking us to do different things. We represent all the hotels, 30, 34, 35 hotels. Not 2 hotels or 3 hotels, or 4 hotels that come and tell you, this is what I want you to do. So we had to try to get the organization, send us 3 or 4 people to work with us, work with Dean and the marketing people to see what you all want. And on the event center, our event center here is booked to 2011. We cannot do anything. We can't bring people down. You can ask city manager, we try to bring them in and stuff, and we don't have anything because they're booked for quinceañeras and weddings, and hopefully, we can change that on the way we book the Civic Center in the future. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. We have some people from the hotel industry. And I want to add that I got a petition here. You say there's 34 hotels. I got, I think, 27 signatures out of 34 hotels that indicate their frustration and say they're united. But, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. My name is Dan Flores. And I'm here today representing a statewide security association that's coming to Brownsville in 2011. Now, let me tell you how we got to Brownsville, okay? I'm currently chairman of that board. There's over 200 members of that association, and we represent over 100,000 security officers statewide. 2004, we hosted a convention on South Padre Island, and I had the help of the Visitors Convention Bureau there. I don't remember the lady's last name, but I know her first name is Sylvia. And we had the most successful convention we've ever had in our association. And our association is over 40 years old. Coming from the island to Brownsville to Matamoros, people asked me, why come we didn't stop in Brownsville? Quite honestly, I didn't have an answer for them. I said, well, we just planned it, island, Matamoros, and that was it. Last year, we were in Houston, Texas for our convention. And the opportunity came up, because this is part of our process, is to nominate a city 3 years in advance. And when the opportunity came up, I picked up the phone and I called this gentleman. And just like that, he was in Houston, Texas, okay? I'll tell you right now, because he said it earlier, you folks don't see what he did in Houston. People from Brownsville don't see what we're bringing down to Brownsville. Because like it was mentioned earlier, once they take their name tags off, you don't know the folks from El Paso, you don't know from Austin, Dallas, Houston, that I deal with on a daily basis as association president or chairman of the board. But Mr. Ayala went up against Dallas, Fort Worth, El Paso, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, and he beat them all. And I was so proud that day because it was a hands down. I couldn't even tell it was a close one on the voting process. It was a hands down because of the way he sold Brownsville to my membership, okay? And there was over 250 people in that room that day. So I just want to share that with you, that it is really important that you take whatever they need into consideration, because we're coming down 2011. It's going to be 6 years, 2004, 2011 since we've been back, okay? And I want to come back to Brownsville sometime in the very near future. Well, I'm coming 2011, but what I'm trying to say is down the road I want to come back, okay? And I hope you still have these folks like Mr. Ayala and his staff at the Bureau.
Thank you for making the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Ravi Deva. I'm the general manager of the Holiday Inn. Mr. Mayor, councilmen, respected leaders of the community. I am here because I feel that the punch that can be delivered with a larger advertising marketing budget, single entity marketing the package that is Brownsville, is going to be far more than if that money is distributed to a lot of entities doing their own individual marketing. I'm not here to deride the CAC's deliberations and results. Believe me, they've put in a lot of hard work, and I respect them for that. But I do feel that there has to be a single entity like the CVB which is going to do the marketing for the city. That's what I'm here to say, and I'm saying it on my own behalf. I'm not saying it on the behalf of any other hoteliers. You mentioned, Mr. Mayor, right now that you got a petition from hoteliers, something about frustration. Would you care to share that with me? Because I don't know anything about it.
I got the petition. You're going to have to get with your hotel people that signed it here.
I just wanted you to read out the petition.
The petition was brought to us.
May I read it, sir?
I think that was collected over a day's time. Oh, that's what they conveyed to me, and they said they're speaking one voice. William, would you like to address that?
Thank you, folks.
You can ask him the
Thank
question.
you.
That's a person to ask, not me, because I didn't pick up the petition. I had nothing to do with the petition.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. My name is William Garza. I'm the manager of La Quinta Inn Hotel. The petition you're talking about really is, many times it's been said that the hoteliers are not united or not together, but like it was stated earlier tonight, that many hotel owners and many hotel managers are there working 2-3 shifts a day because they cannot afford to be coming and attending meetings. So we knew that the hotelers are all behind trying to promote Brownsville and try to make it better, and we went out and got petitions from almost every hotel in town, downtown, on Central Boulevard.
Why is he saying he doesn't know anything about it?
Well, the owner of his hotel signed it as well. I don't know if he's Mr. Peavy. Yes. Well, what is the petition? What I'm just saying, sir. What I'm just saying is.
So the owner of his hotel signed it?
Yes, Mr. He signed it.
You have to take that up with the owner then.
We don't want to argue here. What we're saying is that there is unity amongst the hotelers, not necessarily against anybody, for anybody, but we are, and that petition does say that we are united in the fact for the Hotel Association in promoting the city of Brownsville, and that's all that says. It's not talking about anybody or against anybody. And we did go out And we went out in 2-3 days, visited every hotel, and of course, every hotel wants more business in the city of Brownsville. We're not talking against anybody, and Mr. Ravi, not against you or anybody else, just saying that to let you all know the hotelers are together and united. Just because we don't all attend meetings is not that we're not together. It's just they're out attending to their own hotels. Owners are, the days in, you see the owner working 2 shifts because he can't attend a meeting. So we went to them and got their signature, and I knew we could do so. But we don't want to argue about that point. We're just saying we're all united, and I just wanted to say that I'm totally supportive of Mr. Joslove and what he had presented to us, whoever you all decide to run the Convention and Visitors Bureau. You know, Bean's doing a fine job. I know Bean, but what I'm saying is whoever y'all decide, Mr. Joslove has stated we should have as much money as we can to promote the city of Brownsville. But as Mr. Quant also stated, is you need to have expertise to make these decisions. You know, people that really know the hotel business. You know, and you get hotelers. I'm sure Melissa Zamora, you had said at one time the people involved in on the boards of the island had many of them hotel representatives. Probably most of them. And you also had airport, you had the arts, you had, you know, people that know about tourism, and that's what we like to see, because right now, as you see the board made up today, I mean, except for this proposal tonight, there has not been one hotel person on that board. You know, and that's really one of our concerns, is to have people that know about how to put heads in beds. You know, and, sorry, somebody? Well, she's not on that board, right? Well, she just got on. Yes, but one person. Can you tell me how many people are on the board representing hotels on the?
6 out of 10.
2 people from hotels on the board. Right now, we're off one. Okay, we did name one like about a month ago.
But I think she's saying that 65% of the board makes up the hotel people in South Padre Island?
6 out of 10 on South Padre.
60%.
And I think that's fair.
The population of South Padre Island there, and the people that live there, that all work at hotels or involved in hotels, and I understand that, but here's across the board, we got bankers, and everybody's involved.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, Mr. Avito, let me ask you, please. If you're using the stakeholders of the hotel motel people, that's where you get your funding. That gives you existence, okay? Without them, you wouldn't exist. Why is it that they haven't been included more?
They have been.
One?
No, we've always had 1 to 2 members. Gwen is still a member. She was the manager of 2 hotels here in Brownsville. She's still a member. In fact, William Garza, standing right here, was elected as a member to our board a month ago. And
I didn't see my name up there.
You know, and he never called to say, yes, I will, or I won't, but, you know, that is still open for him. You know, I mean, there's a...
Well, can I say that? Nothing against this board. They're very fine people. But what I'm saying is Mr. Joseph can also tell you, I'm sure bigger cities, not just South Padre Island, many of the boards overlooking CVBs have a great majority of hotelers. And not just referring to South Padre. I'm sure Austin, I'm sure San Antonio, you know, have people that deal with putting heads in beds. And
you're talking about people that have a stake in
the arts, the zoo, the historical society.
People that have a stake in bringing heads in beds.
Of course, and I'm sure, and I would like, if anything, the commission to have maybe guidelines on how to appoint people to this board, and you yourself choose them, and not necessarily have that board choose themselves. And that has been carried on also. And I think we need to have better representation of people that bring in heads in beds. And I like I said, I applaud what Robbie had said. Nothing against you, sir. I'm just saying is that the hotels are united. We have that list.
That's what you're saying on behalf of these people.
On behalf of these people, we support the promotion of the city of Brownsville, and that's all that petition says. Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of us are frustrated. We would like more business, I'm sure, you know.
Okay, thank you, William.
Thank you very
any other
much.
questions from the commission?
I would just like to say, I mean, if you're looking at experience on a board, especially for the Brownsville Convention Visitors, let's put more people that have marketing degrees, people that know how to market. I mean, if the guys who make footballs for the
I
NFL
agree.
doesn't mean they know how to play football.
Good.
Let's put somebody marketers. Let's make it a thing where we put 2 people that have marketing degrees or people that know how to market on these boards.
Marketing expertise is needed.
I just
Okay,
have
one final. Okay, one final. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. I've been working with Bean here, and during the trial days with Jose Suleiman and the WBC when he came down, actually Bean asked him, well, okay, you're going to bring a fight to Brownsville, and we're having an event there at the Visitors Bureau. And he promised he's going to bring an event down, and actually I've been communicating with Suleiman.
Wait a second. I just talked to him, Dr. Suleiman. I saw him Thursday and Friday. Was with him both days.
Yeah, I know at the golf tournament.
And he told me nobody has contacted him about the fight.
Yeah, I sent him an email, and
because I asked him, I said, has anybody from Brownsville followed up on your offer? He said no.
Yeah, I've been emailing him.
He just told me this Friday.
Yeah, I know you were there, and I'm waiting for his response from his email. But he did promise. It's written in the newspapers. And
that was 6 months ago. Or how long ago?
Oh yeah. Well, you can be as negative as you want, but he's a man of his word, and I'll be talking to you,
Doctor,
and I'll let you know.
If he offered 10 months ago, we shouldn't wait 10 months to initiate.
Well, the thing is, because I went to Victoria and I went to Mexico City. I don't know. I'm arguing with you, but I went and I spoke with. We
need to follow up.
I am. I spoke with Mr. Suleiman. I went to his home in Mexico City. I was in Victoria, Mexico, with him, and he said, "Well, you have to wait because at the end of the year is when we'll have a time. We have championship fights going on." And he said, give us till the end of the year. And yeah, well, that's what he said. And of course, right now, the WBC is also sponsoring the fights that are coming up with whatever, Mayweather Jr. is coming up. But they had to extend it, and all those are big events. But he did promise me, and I did email him. I'm not lying to everybody.
Well, I assured him
it's
that
a good
we would be
lead,
following up on
and
that.
I know, it's a good lead.
We question your credibility, sir.
Thank you. No, I'm just going by what he told me.
He's playing, man.
Thank you very much,
Follow
Mr.
up on it.
Troyani. I
think that's part of
appreciate
the
that.
problem. Nothing against the doctor.
Thanks.
I would like to
Thank you.
thank you all for giving us this opportunity. Mayor, I'd sure like to thank you for repeating half of our presentation. I'm glad you noticed what we were doing. And thank you, everybody else, and thank you, general public. Once again, we represent the city of Brownsville. We are ready to work with the hotel leaders. If you notice, we had a liaison group of 3 members, and we have Mr. William Garza has been voted on, and then we have Gwen Benton. That will give us 5 hotel leaders, 5 person out of 9 persons, with 12 with experience. That would be almost half will be with hotel experience. Thank you very much. And remember, Brownsville, with a history of biggest Texas, is represented by your Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mayor, can I say something real quick? There's a proclamation, and there's probably about, 10 to 15 kids waiting outside. So if we could,
We'll take care of that right away.
before the commissioners' reports, et cetera, because these kids have been waiting since.
We'll take care of that right away.
Thank you.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everybody, for their patience. This was a very important workshop. Please face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee. Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Pastor Andres Lewis will be giving us the invocation. Pastor Aiden Will, is he still around? Is he okay?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. I'm chaplain at the Seaman Center now, and he is in the process of handing that ministry over to me.
He's retired?
At the Seaman Center, yes.
Thank you. Please leave it.
Thank you. Father, I thank you. Thank the Commission. I thank the Mayor for this opportunity to begin this evening or continue this evening, remembering, Lord, that we are stewards of all that you have given us. We thank you for this city. We thank you for all who are laboring so hard to put this city on the map, to get the word out that we have so much to offer. Father, I thank you that as we put our heads together, as we put our hearts together, as we draw together, that you will show us, Father, how this city can be represented. Father, we pray now for your blessing on the rest of this meeting. I pray, Father, that there will be a spirit of refreshing and encouragement in this place. Father, I thank you that you have sent us to this city, Father, that you may bless it, that you may make it known, that this may be a place, Father, where your presence is known. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated, and let's do the proclamation with the children, and they'll come up with. Please be seated. Okay, we'll take a. Oh, okay. I thought y'all wanted to take a recess.
Oh, yeah, of course. I haven't seen that. Hadn't seen that.
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, congratulating Thunder United boys soccer team on its 2009 national championship season. Whereas Brownsville's under-15 Thunder United boys soccer team on July 19, 2009, won the U.S. Youth Soccer President's Cup in Raleigh, North Carolina, and whereas in winning the championship, Thunder United compiled a 13-1-1 record in district, state, regional, and national playoffs, beating teams from throughout the U.S., and whereas Thunder United's road to the title began May 16th and 17th with the President's Cup District Tournament in Harlingen, where the team went 3-0, beating teams from San Antonio at 7-2, the Valley at 3-2, and Austin at 4-2, and then it was on to Houston for a May 23rd and 24th state tournament, and a 2-0-1 record, tying a team from El Paso at 1-1, and beating a team from Bay City 3-2, and a team from Houston at 2-0. And whereas Greenville, South Carolina, and the Region 3 tournament on June 12th and 14th was next on Thunder United's march to the championship, winning 3 times and tacking on another 2 wins in the regional semifinals, thus earning a Greyhound bus ride to the national finals in Raleigh, July 17th through 19th, where it began with a loss to Santa Barbara, California, but then rallied to win 2 games against teams from Missouri and New York before coming back to beat Santa Barbara 1-0 to claim the national championship. And whereas Thunder United team members include Alan Cortinas, Orlando de la Cruz, Sergio de la Garza, Alan Garcia, Owen Gijon, Julio Gutierrez, Esteban Guzman, Ricardo Hernandez, Jose Hinojosa, Javier Lopez, Jose Munoz, Victor Munoz, Dennis Ortiz, Reynaldo Sandoval, Giovanni Sierra, Abraham Troncoso, and Sigifredo Zavala, and head coach Norma Solis, and assistant coach Filiberto Cortinas. And now therefore, we the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by the virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby congratulate and recognize Thunder United Boys Soccer Team on its 2009 National Championship season, done on this, the 18th day of August, 2009, and signed by the Mayor and City Commissioners of Brownsville, Texas.
I just want to thank the City of Brownsville for giving us this recognition. When we were over there, when we received our medals and our trophies, the Region 3 representative, the first thing he told us was that, well, they were very proud of us for winning, and the state association was proud of us, but they told us the ones that should be prouder was our city. And a lot of them, like I told Mr. Trani, a lot of people didn't know where Brownsville was, or we just kept saying we were from South Texas, and they were like, okay, well, where's Brownsville? But, you know, and he said actually their dream was to have a team from deep South Texas play a team from the West, which is from California. So that was the championship game. So, you know, I'm very proud of them, and I thank the parents and everybody. You know, it was a long summer for them, but it's an experience they'll never forget, and that's what I told them. So thank you very much.
No, sir.
Congratulations, thank you again. I'm going to skip the mayor's report in the interest of time. Commissioner's report, Commissioner Charlie Atkinson.
I'll pass two right now.
Okay.
I'll put it on
We'll
for the
do it
next
next week.
for next meeting and
Next
stuff.
week.
I'm going to skip
Commissioner
mine as
Camarillo?
well. I'm going to skip mine.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. The consent item,
Someone to approve? Second.
we have a motion, and a second. Commissioner Longoria made it, the motion, and Commissioner Camarillo seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Motion carries. Item 5.
Item 5, consideration and action to appoint one member to the Cultural Affairs Advisory Committee to fill an unexpired term.
Mayor,
Okay, Commissioner Gowan asked to be recognized.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Sylvia Patriarca to the CAC board.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Gowan makes a motion, second by Commissioner Longoria. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item?
Item 6, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2009-029S to allow a light commercial specific use in a general retail G classification of Espiritu Santo grant located at 3866 Paredes Line Road.
Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners, this is a specific use for a used car lot. Here on the screen you have the site plan. It's on Paredes Line Road, close to Cameron Park. The Plan Zoning Commission voted with 1 nay to recommend this application to you.
Who is the nay?
Mr. Young, Michael Young.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Can I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Commissioner Atkinson, second by Commissioner Camarillo. To close, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. This is an action item. Any,
Move to approve? I'm sorry.
so can I have a motion?
Move to approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Camarillo. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Longoria. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 7.
Item 7, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2009-030 to rezone from medium retail Z to medium retail G for lot, for lot 9, block 30 of Cameron Park subdivision located near Gregory Avenue and Paredes Line Road.
Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners, this further up the street from the last case. This is a proposed just retail application for rezoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission would unanimously to recommend this application to you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody for or
For the public
against?
hearing.
Nobody's here for or against. Can we have a motion to
close.
approve, to close? Commissioner Camarillo, Commissioner Longoria makes a motion to close. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Triani. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Action item.
Move to
Can I have a
approve?
motion? Commissioner Camarillo,
Second.
second by Commissioner Zamora. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, public comments.
Item 8,
Do we-
public
Do we have
comment.
any?
Yes, sir.
I don't have,
Fernando Reese.
I don't have any. Nope.
Fernando Reese, Alex Perez, and Roman Perez.
Okay, in that order, please.
I need to keep these.
All of you know the rules. Please do not attack anybody. Address your comments to the chair. You have a limit of 3 minutes.
No interruptions, please.
And I will ask the city attorney to please intervene if anybody violates the rules.
Roland. Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. I was reviewing the film of last week's meeting, and I was understood that the mayor stipulated that I know nothing of what's going on. Well, you know, many, many years ago, some 3, 4 years, I predicted the economy, how it was going to be. I told you about so many things, you know, that I have researched. I do a lot of studying before I address these meetings. The last advice I gave this commission was election day, because Mayor Omada was addressed by Mr. Uresti, and he was blown out of this hall here, and I went and checked, and you know what? Mr. Uresti was right. You cannot consolidate the precincts to vote unless you have pre-clearance from the Justice Department. So I went and advised Mr. Ortiz, who also doesn't know what he's doing, so that he had to call the Justice Department. And this is under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So, you know, I think I do know a lot, you see. I hold 2 professional titles, and I am willing to challenge the mayor in any subject that he wishes to address.
Excuse me,
I
sir.
only- I
Excuse
only
me,
know-
sir. Excuse me, sir. Challenge.
Sir, my time. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll change the subject, but give me my time. I only know that now I am in the ranks of the great Greek philosopher Socrates, because I know nothing. And he used to say, all I know is that I don't know anything. Yo solo sé que nada sé. So then I have to thank him for that. But you know, we have to maintain respect for the persons that come here, especially that we see now an example of the president addressing the constituency in the United States, and he respects the constituency, the president of this great country, and I expect the same from all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All we ask is that everybody follow the rules. Next person,
Mr. Alex Resendez.
Mr. Resendez, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Reverend Resendez, and I'm concerned for the lost souls of Brownsville, Texas, whether you believe it or not. Lost souls are happening because people do not repent. Jesus said, if you don't repent, you go to hell. That's the way it is. The Bible says that. If Brownsville does not repent, Brownsville is going to go to hell. I mean, I'm not trying to be rough. I know we do have an attorney there that he's going to straighten up my words, you know. But I am a reverend, ordained reverend, And I am concerned about the souls of everybody in Brownsville. I love you all. Brownsville is wonderful. I'm concerned that we have a hurricane. We're going to have a catastrophe here in Brownsville. It's only 3 minutes. But believe me, a flood or a hurricane is going to hurt us bad if we have one. May the Lord bless us. I want to thank the Lord that we got rain because we were having fires all over the place. Okay? So let's thank the Lord. Let's work like little brothers that we really are. And let's try to cooperate one with another. Okay? I don't know how to say this. I have been speaking with Mr. Pete Gonzalez through the phone, and he's told me, Alex, we don't have any money. Okay? We have gentlemen here coming about the motels and this and that. Where's the revenues? Is Brownsville getting any monies? Are we getting, Mr. Atkinson, monies from the sports park? You did a wonderful job. I'm not putting you down, sir. But we must get revenues, bring money in, vender tamales or something, I don't know. we gotta get money in. He says we're going to start cutting and cutting and cutting. You wanted to cut the cell phones. I respect you, Mayor. You're the one in charge. It's your bag. You're carrying it. My concerns are that we have to work on harmony. We got enough problems as it is. The churches ain't helping a bit. Many churches, you go to them and all they care about is making money. They don't care about saving souls. If Jesus was here, he would send everybody to hell because nobody cares about saving souls. May the Lord bless your family and your children.
Thank you, Mr. Resendez.
Mr. Roman Perez?
Roman Perez.
I know that this week you're not. My name is Roman Perez, for the record.
Speaking the mic.
Speaking louder.
The mic.
Thank you. I know that this week we're not discussing the budget, but I took it upon myself to actually look at the budget, and to your credit, you all have it on the homepage, and it was done by Friday, 6 p.m., so it was great. So I wanted to take a little head start. I noticed that the Cultural Affairs Advisory Committee made a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and in that presentation there were several organizations, there were nonprofits that were sold $0, you're getting $0. In fact, earlier during the workshop, the issue was brought up about utilities going for a person or an entity that doesn't necessarily fall under hotel motel tax. But they actually have to go through a process. They have to go through a application process, and we're actually giving that money. And I believe that they're getting money from the general fund. Even though they're getting this money from the general fund, they still have to go through a process. I noticed, and the reason I say this is because under the Cultural and Recreational Department section, they are being cut $1.5 million from last year's budget to this year's budget. But there's a new line item on that budget. There's $10,000 going to a non-for-profit, namely the Brownsville Farmers Market. That wasn't in last year, it was in this year. They did not necessarily have to go through a process. They didn't go through CAC. They are getting money from the general fund, my understanding is, unlike that other entity that actually had to go through a application process. I feel that this leads to the idea that it's not against any one commissioner, it's just that it seems as though this entity is getting budgeted money, and one of you happens to be the founder and former president of this organization, which leads me to ask that there be an ordinance in place that dictates conflict of interest, as there is for the Cultural Affairs Advisory Committee. The ordinance could simply read that not only do you not participate in voting for an issue, whether you're employed by a public entity or a private entity, like one of the commissioners is, he actually abstains, which is to his credit. But I would actually ask you all to go a little step further and say you don't participate in the discussion. Because even though you are not voting in the issue, you are either playing as lobbyists for your employer. Maybe they have something against your employer, maybe they don't. Or maybe they have something against your client. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. You participating in that discussion, leads to some potential conflict of interest, and it's just another avenue for transparency. So if you have a client that is coming before you, say, don't participate in it. Actually be transparent. Say, hey, this particular person I'm about to give a recommendation to gave me $1,000 for my campaign. I'm going to let you know. Be transparent. Because I know that some of you ran on change. But unfortunately, if you all keep this $10,000, it seems as though it's just more of the same. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. May I suggest you sit down with legal counsel, and I'm sure he could shed some light to it. You would keep us straight from doing anything illegal, I hope. Okay. Next item, 9.
Item number 9, consideration and action regarding the creation of an Office of Tourism in the City of Brownsville, beginning in fiscal year 2009-2010.
Commissioner Zamora?
Yes, currently we are under a one-year contract with the CVB as a nonprofit organization that provides us with professional marketing services. As we heard earlier, the CVB is tasked with utilizing our hotel motel funds for generating tourism, or what we call it, heads and beds. Those people in the industry, that's what we call it. I've heard both praise and disenchantment with the performance of our CVB, and personally, I don't believe that our CVB director has had the opportunity to prove himself yet because he hasn't had enough time in his position. Still, I think that there are some valid concerns that absolutely need to be addressed concerning an entity we entrust almost $1 million with to market everything special the city has to offer. Initially, my proposal was to create a CVB as an official department of the city, but upon talking with our city attorney and city manager, that doesn't allow us to do so right now, considering our budget constraints. So what I'm looking at now, and with discussion with some other city commissioners and city staff, is to continue with a contractual obligation, but with a 2-year obligation. That way, any entity that is marketing the city has an opportunity to gauge their performance, their marketing plan, and their media plan. I have a draft that consists of creating an advisory board for the CVB with appointees who have a vested interest in the tourism industry. That consists of 4 city commission appointed members of the hotel industry, marketing director for the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport, 1 member of the Brownsville Economic Development Council, the sitting chair or president of the Brownsville Chamber of Commerce, and the sitting chair of the Cultural Affairs Advisory Committee. Subsequently, if any member of the CVB Advisory Board is delinquent in their payment of the hotel motel tax, they shall no longer be a member of the CVB Board.
Let me interject, please.
Yes.
I think, I may be wrong, but that's not on the agenda.
The agenda item is consideration and action regarding the creation of an Office of Tourism in the City of Brownsville, beginning in the fiscal year 2009-2010.
So I think, is it proper the way we're going, or is it, do we have to come back and reword it?
Well, I mean, I think what Commissioner Zamora is proposing is an alternative to that agenda.
I understand that, but I'm saying, are we complying based on the action, item?
I wouldn't take any action on it, but I think discussion of alternatives to what's
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're in
Yes,
compliance.
Mr. Saucy said I could discuss it, we just couldn't take action.
Commissioner, I'm not disputing that. I'm just giving guidance from
No,
your city
I've already
attorney.
done that.
Because I know you have done it, but I'm not aware of it. And as mayor presiding over the meeting, I see what it says here, action regarding creation. And that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about something totally different. So as mayor, I have a duty to get clarification, even though you may know. But I think the rest of us need to know.
Okay.
Okay?
No problem.
So we're okay as long as we don't take action. Is that right? Okay. Thank you.
So then should we
Proceed.
just go ahead and, we're not even in discussion, and here we are discussing. Shouldn't we make it, either table it, that way we can get into discussion?
That's what I
on
thought,
the
but he's
future part?
saying that it's okay. That was my sentiments, but he's saying it's okay as long as we don't take action.
Okay.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure
Well, we're not even in
staying in
discussion. Don't you have to
compliance.
take an action, Mark? Don't we have to say, move to table, and then let's get into discussion to talk about a draft resolution?
Or reword it and bring it back.
There's different, I mean, the commission would have different options. I mean, you're certainly free to discuss the creation of an Office of Tourism or an alternative to that. If you want to table it and reword it on the agenda so you can take action and discuss it at the same time,
That would be my advice.
Those would both be permissible alternatives. It would be up to the voting.
I just want to stay in compliance, that's all.
Correct.
Well, I'd make the motion to table and then still discuss it as
Well,
we've done with
I need to
everything
call
else.
for a motion
Go
before we
ahead,
do
Mayor.
that.
Go ahead.
You know, as long as we're legal, I don't mind proceeding along these lines, but just as long as we stay legal. That's all I want to make sure. So I don't have any problem. Go ahead, proceed.
Okay. And for the implementation purposes of the board, 4 of the appointees will be for 3-year terms and 4 for 2-year terms, and all subsequent terms will be for 3 years. No member can serve more than 2 consecutive terms. Ex officio members of the CVB Advisory Board shall include the CVB Executive Director and the City Manager or Assistant City Manager. The City Manager representative shall vote in the event of a tie. The CVB Advisory Board shall interview and select a CVB Executive Director with appropriate marketing experience and higher level education. As allowable per state law, 15% of hotel motel revenues shall be allocated for the arts and historic preservation, with recommendations for distribution to be made by the Cultural Affairs Advisory Committee and approved by the City Commission. The CVB shall utilize the CAC's application process for the allocation of hotel motel revenues for special events, seeking sponsorship, and provide economic impact estimates for such. Those seeking sponsorship shall further demonstrate that sponsorship monies are to be used and were used to market the event by providing the CVB Advisory Board with a budget. The CVB shall track all media coverage of special events and assess appropriate dollar values. The CVB shall utilize the appropriate software to track and distribute conference, convention, event leads fairly to the hotel industry. The CVB shall diligently seek conferences and conventions utilizing both hotel and city-owned meeting space. The CVB Advisory Board shall work to ensure that the City of Brownsville's branding, logos, campaigns, etc. are utilized by any entity receiving hotel motel revenue. The CVB shall also work closely with the Office of the Governor Economic Development and Tourism Office or respective state tourism division for cooperative promotion of events, advertising, and programs. The CVB shall also include in its monthly report to the CVB Advisory Board hotel occupancy numbers and leads generated and an end-of-the-year report to the City Commission. And lastly, the CVB shall be annually audited. These are all items that I am simply recommending to be included in the contract obligation, a 2-year contract with an entity that will promote and work diligently with the city and other entities like our museums, the airport, the chamber, to promote the city of Brownsville.
Okay, the commissioner offered a constructive resolution. We cannot take action on this because it's not what the intent is of the item listed on here. So now I will, that she's expressed this, I will entertain a motion to table this to bring it back at a further time for future discussion.
Well, I'll make the motion to strike the agenda, strike this item from the agenda.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I'm making a motion to strike the item from the agenda.
Strike the item from the agenda. We have a motion.
What's here?
We have a motion to strike the item from the agenda from Commissioner Camarillo. We have a second from Commissioner Longoria. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Commissioner
So
Cherani?
I just have a question. The motion is to strike and not to table.
That's right.
That means to eliminate the recommendation?
No, no, no.
Not bring it back?
What I'm striking is a consider an action regarding the creation of Office of Tourism. This is not the item.
I see.
So I'm
I
not,
understand.
so, exactly, so I'm just
Okay, thank
striking number 9.
So we have a motion to strike it. We have a second. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to add some of the stuff, and I just got this newly drafted proposal. And, you know, for city commission department members from the hotel industry, like I said before, why don't we get somebody with marketing background? I mean, to be included on that. I know where you're going with this, it's great, but I think you and I talked about it. 4 people from the hotel industry, I think is just a little too much. I think maybe 3 in 1, 3 from the hotel, 1 from a marketing background, so they can assist in marketing Brownsville in a better way. But we can talk about that later. This is something I want to bring up now and just have you all
We're not going to
think
take
about.
any action
Yeah,
anyway.
I know. I just want, that's one thing I saw.
Did somebody want to offer any other comments from the commission?
No.
Commissioner Longoria said it. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Mr.
Proceed,
Sassi,
Commissioner.
and I guess it'll be directed both to both Commissioner Zamora and Attorney Sassi. Upon the language being drawn on this particular item, this is language that obviously you have drawn up with council?
He has reviewed it, yes.
Council has reviewed it, but this was something that was prepared on your own and presented to him, based on maybe your knowledge as previous experience working within the Visitors and Convention Bureau as you did in South Padre Island.
That's correct.
Okay. Is that somewhat, I mean, because we are policy makers, obviously, and policy enforcers, my only question is Commissioner Zamora within the right to do that? Obviously, I'm thinking, I'm laying towards that she is, because obviously this is policy. So that's my question to you.
Let me answer that question. First of all, in terms of having this as an item that can be discussed, we had posted on the agenda on the workshop presentation and discussion regarding the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I feel very comfortable advising the commission that they may have discussions on the Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I feel Commissioner Zamora's proposals in terms of her discussions fall clearly within that posted item to satisfy the Open Meetings Act. Okay. Now the action item dealt with creation of an Office of Tourism, which is why I recommended to the commission that although I felt they could feel free to discuss that item, because it is posted on the agenda, that they not take any action on that item at this time. Now I think any commissioner is free to try to draw up anything that they want to and present it to the commission, but of course it would be for the commission to vote on whether or not if they wanted to make it policy or not. I mean, it doesn't become policy until this commission votes on it. So, I mean, what Commissioner Zamora would have drawn up would simply be a proposal for consideration of the commission.
And if I may interject, and we do not want to discourage anybody from this body or future bodies to come in and bring their thoughts for discussion. A debate on an issue is healthy because at least it addresses, it brings out the concerns there may be, and also the good stuff, not just the bad stuff, but the good stuff. So I encourage anybody to get engaged and seize the situation, which maybe they can make it better for the community. It should not, we should not be making policies that will prevent that. And I think it was a collaborative effort. I know she contacted me, I know she contacted Commissioner Atkinson, and I don't know who else she contacted, but for her to work and put this much time into this, because it requires a lot of time. And it's time that she's taken away from work and family, and it's busy. And I commend her for that, and we should encourage that. Anybody that wants to bring something that will benefit the community, or at least for discussion that will benefit the community, make it better, should be encouraged. We don't need policies that will hinder that. And I appreciate the Commissioner taking the time for doing this. So that's my opinion on that. So this is not an action item, but I mean, you are free according to council, and I want to be very careful that we are in compliance. If you want to say something now, maybe she can take that feedback to come back next time and post it differently. I've told the city secretary that anybody can use my name to post anything on the agenda. That goes for anybody. You don't even have to call me. So, and that goes to Commissioner Zamora or anybody else. So my name's on there, and gladly, I'm glad to sponsor anything that's brought to this body for discussion that could perhaps bring some good out of it for the community. Anything else, Commissioner Turner?
Are we going to discuss this issue, or are we going?
You can discuss it.
Okay,
We're not going to take action.
Are we going to?
Yeah, I mean, it opened it up.
So I guess
I wanted a table, but it didn't. It failed.
Okay. So I guess my question is it is a revival, or we're looking at continuing on with the Brownsville Visitors Convention Bureau at this time? Because what I heard is that Mr. Ayala has only been in the position for a short amount of time, and we want to see how he's going to perform. Is that correct?
Well, right now we are under a one-year contract, which ends at the end of this fiscal year.
Which is coming right up.
It's coming up. So we'd have to, I think anyway, put out proposals for another contract, which I'm recommending to be 2 years. So they can submit proposals. Any entity can submit proposals. I think that's the legal way to do it. But I think that they would have a better opportunity and a better chance of acquiring that proposal because they already have that experience.
Okay. I guess whoever we get, I would recommend that they come in at least on a quarterly basis and give us an update, and that we disperse funding to them on a quarterly basis so that we can control the activities a little bit better and we have some sort of accountability, because one of the things that I think both you and Commissioner Camarillo mentioned was, you know, what kind of response are we getting on the activities? If people are coming to our hotels and they're giving a report, I think the hoteliers were here, and they can have a little, you know, information sheet they can get back. It can be processed. You mentioned some sort of software.
Yes, there is
that they
software.
can use, and so we could actually have some sort of way of accounting for the funds, and they could come in and they could give a report on a quarterly basis to us, and that we could see, you know, is this working, and is it going in the right procedure, and do it that way.
If I may interject, I think the idea is good, but I think that the problem is that whoever we contract with, they need to rely on a budget for the year at least and plan accordingly. With a quarterly report certainly would be helpful, but I mean, to limit the funding on a quarterly basis, that makes it very tough for them to execute their plan.
Yes, usually when you do your media buys, if
Yeah.
you do your buys in bulk,
Yeah.
you get a discount.
You got to commit for
So if you,
long-term.
correct, if you do this on a quarterly basis,
I
you're
think
going
your
to spend more money.
idea of quarterly reports is excellent.
And that's fine. Now, the question I do have is, I believe I was talking to Mr. Johnson, and he indicated that in the past sometimes that what the city commission had done in the past was say, come in on a quarterly basis, and also indicated that if there was a problem with that or a concern with the use of funds, that there be some additional strings attached to it, or at least the ability to evaluate the use of funds. And that would just, I think that my concern is how are we using the money, and how is it outlaid? Because I know that we talked about using, we talked about the budget before in May with the Cultural Affairs Committee, and what we got wasn't really indicative of what we saw tonight. And I think that Mr. Ayala and the group has put together a much better presentation, has gone back and reevaluated that, and so we see a lot more of the meat of what they were trying to do. But without that type of substance, then we have concerns where the money's going, how it's being used, what are the projects, and these other things, and we need to have a way of controlling the organization. Now, there may be other things in place, other procedures in place to control that, and maybe that's what you're talking about.
Well, it would require, Commissioner, a marketing plan on behalf of whoever we contract with for short-term, mid-term, long-term, and then the quarterly reports would be the benchmarks that they report on. Are they fulfilling that marketing plan? I think that's what...
Yes, part of the proposal is that they present us with their media plan and their marketing plan in advance, so we know exactly where the money is being invested.
And then by having, if I understand the Commissioner, by having 4 hotel people who have the largest stake in this, and having somebody from the airport, and having somebody from the chamber, and having somebody from the economic development, and who else did you want on there? Well, anyway, whoever.
From the CAC. It brings everyone together, all the entities
yeah, exactly.
together.
It brings everybody together, it brings transparency and accountability to where if something's wrong, then it can be brought to the commission and say, hey, put the brakes here. I think that's for intent. Yes, Commissioner.
I agree and I disagree because of what I saw today. You got a lot of people that are involved with the CVV that are hard workers, and they promote Brownsville in their own way without being really employees of the CVV. I think what we saw today, we shouldn't just go out for a new CVV. I think we should help this CVV board grow and develop better. I think today Bean found 2 other new friends, one from South Padre Island, one from that guy that showed up, I forgot his name.
Mr. Kwan?
And, yeah,
Or Mr. Scott?
let him develop. You're right, he's been here 1 year. And before we create a new board, I mean, I like the procedures that you did. I mean, I think I brought up before how this commission only appoints 3 people out of 15 board members they have. Maybe the procedures need to be changed where we can hold that board more accountable and let that board later on, if they need to give Bean a raise or they need to just let them go, or let them decide. I think we're at a stage right now where we can change some of the procedures you have. I agree with you. But at the same time, try to save what they have going on, because they do have some great things going on, and just hold them more accountable through the procedures that you're laying out right now before we go contract with somebody new who would put in, I don't know, and just tweak the board there and make being reach earmarks and hold them accountable. And from then, if the board doesn't like what he's doing, let them get rid of him.
This is a discussion item anyway, so I mean, it's good to get the feedback.
But we're just talking, I'm just talking
Yeah,
about
that's what I'm
how
saying.
we
It's good to
can
get feedback. I'm
work
just saying.
together. And I commend Commissioner Samora for bringing this up, because it has been a problem in the past. And they satisfied a lot of the questions we had today, but we still want more. I'd like to see a ledger of where that $50,000 went to. You know, I mean, there's pie charts, but I want to see more in-depth, more, you know, call it micromanaging, but I want to see where that money went. And is it viable to give them $850,000 again? Maybe we need to give them $500,000 and make them fundraise and make them, you know, what revenues do they bring in? I still don't know what they made this year in revenues. Same thing with the zoo. The zoo says that we brought all these people in, but where's the revenue? And how does that coincide with what the money you're asking us to do right now? I mean, everybody's being held accountable because of what we're going through. Every department, everything. And I commend you for bringing it up, but my idea is try to tweak what we got and see if it works and implement your procedures. They're great. And see if this can work out before I don't believe in just firing people. I've been fired. It's not good.
I think that without the whole concept, idea, looking into it as Commissioner Zamora has, I think that we wouldn't have had the hoteliers, the CVB, the gentleman from the Texas State Board all together to improve communication, reorganization, which is the whole goal of promoting Brownsville, that everyone keep together, moving towards the right direction with the eye on the long-term development of Brownsville. And I think that's wonderful. And I also think that the quarterly reports are a very good idea, because they've never had to do that, and we've never had the opportunity to look at whether they're meeting their benchmarks or not.
Okay. Anything further from the commission? Okay, so this is a discussion item. We'll bring it back if the commission wishes to, or the commissioner wishes to, and we'll have a more engagement on this and more discussion. So we can move to the next item?
Well, there was a motion and a second.
Oh, yeah, we had a motion to strike in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please. Item 10?
Item 10, consideration and action on resolution number 2009-049, supporting the development of wind power as an alternative source of energy.
Mayor, I met with the directors of BDC and GBEC. I met with PUB, and Rick Longoria, I appreciate you helping me put this on there, because he went out there to...
You went to the wind farm?
Maybe he want to share what he saw out there, but this is something to go inside with our city's commitment to bring in wind energy. And, you know, we have to set the pace. You know, we met with PUB, and it didn't seem like they had a 10-year goal on how to be energy efficient in the next 10 years. Well, not yet. I mean, it's maybe being written or whatever, but we need to support PUB and the fact that we support wind energy, because anybody who lives in Brownsville knows we get 15-mile-per-hour winds here. So, you know, based on, maybe you want to enlighten us what you saw there, but I mean, supposedly it was a good trip.
When we went to the farms at the Kennedy Ranch, they were in the process. They had 280 units going on at the same time, but we were lucky enough to be there at the end of the closing day, where they produced 1,500 megawatts that they sent back into the system, and that are available for either municipalities or for companies to purchase. And what PUB staff, I was very impressed with PUB staff and the approach that they took from a commercial sense to be able to look into this. There's different ways of working our portfolio at PUB. You're more in touch with it because you're there at the meetings. But we do need to, obviously, since we are working with coal, we are working with gas, but the need for the green initiative is there. The price that they're giving you on it, you know, we don't want to necessarily look into right now maybe buying into the company, but surely looking into the, Mayor, I forget the term for the broker that sells to everyone. There is a company that exists that brokers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I forget, but
Oh, my went blank.
the brokering company that sells it to municipalities and markets right there, their initial recommendation is, start it off, see how it does for your Tanasca. See how it does for your portfolio, work it out, and see how it goes. But from what we were looking at the prices, that is the way to go. That is the future. And unfortunately, some of you weren't able to make the trip, but it's very impressive. The gentleman that put on the presentations there for us and presented what it is that they're doing out there at the Kennedy Ranch was an eye-opener. And, you're able to see how our environment is producing that energy. And it's out of the way. They have an incredible radar system that we were able to see on how it interacts with the neighboring ranch that's right next to them, and how their radars from one point to the other allows so there is no birds being killed. I was surprised, they have staff, they had 18 birders out there, people with labs out there searching the farm, making sure that there wasn't any dead animals out there, any dead birds. So initially, this is, like they say, you need to live it to be able to, go through it. But this is something definitely that we should be looking into the future because it is going to be prosperous, not just for the city, but also for our environment.
And I want to echo what Commissioner Longoria said and what he experienced, and I recommend all of you to go. It's a very special and unique experience. Commissioner Longoria got to see the same radar I saw, which could detect insects a mile away. And that's used to protect the migratory birds, that if they're in the flight path of one of the windmills, they shut down that windmill in time so nobody gets hurt. And that was impressive to see that. And it's a portable radar. And you'd wonder if they can develop that kind of technology, the Pentagon can, why can't they secure a border without putting a fence? They can detect insects a mile away. But I recommend all the commissioners, and I echo Commissioner Gordon's experience. It's very unique, and please go and see for yourself. It's going green, and it's the future. Thank you, Commissioner, for the report. Anything else, Commissioner Atkinson?
No, I just would move to approve this resolution.
Well, we have a motion.
Second.
Can we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 11.
Item 11, consideration and action for the sale of a used city vehicle to Mrs. Sylvia Gutierrez, widow of former Brownsville police officer Ruben Gutierrez.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commission. This item was tabled back in July 21st. I was asked to bring a new agenda with a new value for this vehicle. And what we have, a recommendation is to award the sale of this Tahoe 1999 as is to the widow of former Brownsville police officer Ruben Gutierrez in the amount of $2,775. This value was based, if you look at the agenda, we got two quotes, one from NADA and another one from the Kelly Blue Book. It happens that the Kelly Blue Book was not able to provide us with the poor value for this vehicle. This vehicle has over 100,000 miles. It's got hail damage, and it's just been sitting there at the Brownsville Police Department for quite a while.
Okay, this is an action item.
Who to approve?
Motion approved, second by Commissioner Longoria. The motion was made by Commissioner Atkinson. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say something. I'd like to just let people know about this lady, Sylvia Gutierrez. I was fortunate enough to go to the U.S. Customs Academy with her. She's a very passionate lady. She would have paid $30,000 for this car. That's how much she's a family person. She loved her husband, and anybody who knows Ruben knows that he was a man's man. He took care of his family, and he got the job done with PD. And her way of honoring her husband is to have that vehicle. It's, I don't know how to explain it. It's real, it's personal, and she's passionate about, something that the kids grew up around that Suburban that they had, and for this to be on the agenda, I just want to thank her and for what she does as a mother, as a chief where I work, and I thank her for all her good deeds. She's such a good person, you know. I really would like this to be passed.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 12, consideration and action to award a contract for construction of sediment and erosion controls at the City of Brownsville landfill.
Staff recommendation is to award a contract for the construction of a sediment and erosion control at the City of Brownsville landfill to Reiner Construction of Rio Hondo, Texas, the low responsible bidder, for a total bid amount of $446,354.70. This bid came out under the engineer's cost estimate, under $106,995. The contractor is willing to complete the work within 50 consecutive calendar days. Funding for this construction project is available from the CO Fund account 84415765.
Okay. We have a motion.
Move to approve.
To approve. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Item 13, consideration and action to award a contract for construction of one fixed-base operator hangar at the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport.
Based on the successful negotiations with the proposed firm, staff recommendation is to award a contract for the construction and erection of one FBO hangar. It stands for Fixed Based Operator hangar at the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport, to be awarded to Terry Ray Construction of Brownsville, Texas, in the amount of $1,303,137. If you see on the screen, the amounts are breakdown as follows. The base bid came in at $1,258,578. Then we have alternate number 5 for $62,700, minus two deductions. One is for $5,832 and the other one for $12,309. That will give us the total amount. This contractor is obligated to complete the work within 240 consecutive calendar days, and funding for this construction is available from the GVIC and city funds available for 13 projects at the airport.
May I make a comment? May I make a comment?
Sure.
Mr. Brown, this was a contractor that I've had problems with for the last 6 years. Now, I'm not going to vote against this. I'm going to allow, or at least my vote, for this contractor to be awarded this business. I would like for him to come back. He is a local vendor. I would like for him to return with the city to start doing business again, because he does hire local people and as such. But I would like to see the quality of this project. I want to see this project with quality. We don't want to be coming back 2 or 3 years later the way we have with the event center, the way we have with the Camille, the way we have with the Children's Museum, and the animal shelter. So I would like for this contractor to be put in check and told that, you know what, we're going to be looking at your performance in this project.
Be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Commissioner Atkinson.
Were they the lowest bidder?
Yes, sir. Of the proposals, competitive proposals that were there, that's what the committee recommended. Yes, sir.
Now, I have a question.
Well, hold on, let me finish. Does GBEC recommended this, or are we approving this, or was it already approved at GBEC, or what?
Funding is coming from GBIC.
The funding comes from
Okay.
GBIC, right? It's one of the GBIC projects.
Okay, and they were the lowest bidder, the best, highest rated?
It was a proposal, so they were the highest ranked firm.
Yes.
So therefore,
It was a ranking firm. Do you have the rankings here?
yes, it is attached to the package. You can
Because I have
see
the
it.
same concerns, like Mr. Longoria, of the quality of stuff that's being done by some of these vendors that we have here. We set a pace, we set a bar, and we want to make sure they meet this bar.
Well, I'm very concerned, like them, because like some of the things that, the change orders, and in his defense also, he's got to follow architectural plans, okay? I understand that. But there's some work at the event center that the roofing had to be replaced, and we replaced it at our expense, okay? And it had something to do with the faulty construction. And that was very costly to the city. I would like to see this table, let's look at it and bring it back next time.
I'll move the table.
I mean, I think we should, because there's too many projects. The Stillman
Children's
Animal
Museum.
Clinic, Ms. Stillman was very upset. It was not finished, there was no insulation, you know, and you know, it feels like it shortchanged people. But the one that stands out the most is the event center. The roof works had to be replaced, and the city had to replace it when it was a new facility.
I have a question, and, you know, without getting into, you know, details, but what are the follow-ups from staff as far as the quality checks? I mean, as we're going through here, we should be able to spot defects and problems, you know, and especially on our own projects. I mean, it's bad enough that we're, you know, going out there and inspecting homes, et cetera, and qualifying, but I mean, these are our own projects, and we have these projects.
I can't answer the question about how the city does the other projects, but in this case, we have professional engineers and professional construction inspectors, and we are just as concerned as anybody else to make sure that the building is erected last greater than its amortization level, which is 20 years.
But we had them in place last time too, and look at what happened. Who was the second highest bidder or
The
lowest
second
bidder? I'm sorry.
it was Siwa. And we're gonna bring another item back next city commission meeting on another project related to the airport,
Right. The
where
agricultural
we have another vendor that same process.
Right.
And it just happened that this other vendor, which is Siwa, it's
Who's that?
Siwa Construction.
Siwa Construction.
It's a local vendor.
Here's the thing. I don't necessarily know that we need to slow up the awarding the project. I mean, but there's a couple things. One, he's saying that he's not going to change the value, so he's going to stick with the amount that he's quoted. He's not going to come back and say that I need more money because, hey, the price has gone up.
That was the negotiated.
Because obviously, if we delay it, then that's an excuse, or that's a reason. Then you can come back and you can adjust it based on, oh, the price of materials went up. Okay, but he's saying in here he's not going to do that.
Exactly.
And secondly, we have an obligation as well to come back and inspect the buildings.
Yes.
That's
And we
also
need
the
to do that.
responsibility of HNTV, the consulting engineer.
As a part of the cost of doing the project.
Mayor, let me ask you a question.
Wait a second.
Okay, so-
Let me finish. But a lot of things you find out after the fact, after the contractor's paid and gone. And that's happened several times, so there's a bad history of that. That's my concern. I think I'm echoing Commissioner LaGuardia's concern that, you know, they're gone and then we find all these problems and we have to pay for it. Commissioner Camarillo, you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say, well then, you know, if you're saying that, you know, we need to table the item and
Well, I don't
you know,
know.
and whatnot.
No.
Well, I'm saying, well then, how do you justify the rating? You know, you look at every individual's there, if I'm not mistaken, city staffer, correct? Is that correct?
That's correct.
So they feel that this crew should get the bid, should get the award.
Well, that's a recommendation.
Yeah, but it was part of the same committee that did it last time too.
May I ask a question?
Let
I don't
Commissioner
necessarily
Camarillo
think
finish.
so. I don't think so. I mean, I think, you know, again, hearing Mr. Brown say the people that are going to be on the job and so forth, I mean, I would understand, I think even the commission would look at people's track records. They should, you know, how good have they done? Or if they didn't do that well. And look, then that should be part of the whole ranking system. But again, they rated them. I mean, I don't think that should be something that they.
But it's
they are-
close.
I think-
Ziwa and Terry Ray are close. They're not that far apart. The thing is, who do we have confidence in that's going to deliver based on cost, quality, okay, and performance? I mean, it's just, and there's a track record that I don't feel comfortable with. But anyway.
And how does Larry
I think
Brown qualify to be
Commissioner
somebody
Longoria
on a committee like that?
Commissioner Longoria has the
He
floor.
doesn't.
Commissioner Longoria has the floor.
The FAA does.
Commissioner Longoria.
When we got sued by the Ray Group, I know that there was talk between, that it was Mejia Rose that was countersuing, or with the finish out at your main facility. Wasn't it the Marshall Ray that sued us?
At the main facility?
With your main facility there at the airport? Remember, we had a lawsuit a couple of years ago, and
That
Marshall
was-
Ray was representing against us?
That was Zimmerman Construction.
Zimmerman Construction, I'm so sorry. My apologies, that was sorry about that. No, sorry.
The issue that I've had with Terry Ray, and the event center is a long time ago, long before our time. And the animal shelter was half done, and the rest of the animal shelter was done by our crews, interior-wise. Is a children's museum and the Dean Porter Park. He had a huge part in phase 2 of Dean Porter Park. And we had issues with the children's museum, for example. But he is now out there doing the work that we felt was his responsibility. We have been in discussion in relation to that for an awful long period of time.
Mr. Calver, when we had the hurricane scare about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, or last year, wasn't it the Camille, correct me if I'm wrong, the wall came off on part of Camille Liner Playhouse?
I don't recall that, and I don't even recall if Terry Ray had responsibility for the Camille Playhouse, because we had 2 phases of Dean Porter Park, which took a long time to finish.
Yeah,
I know he had issues with the Children's Museum, and he is now doing the work that we felt.
How long has it been since he should have taken care of it right away? How long, what's the time span when he did it?
That was something that was finished a few years ago. And as we know, and if you want to get into his personal life, he got sick. He was gone for a long time. He came back. But nevertheless, if you don't want to give this work to the recommended company, and you want us to go back and negotiate with the second company. No, we can go back and negotiate with the second company if that's what you wish.
No, we cannot. We can give it to the second company right now.
No, you can't.
Why?
We need to go back and negotiate. You're going to give us a higher price.
Commissioner Attorney.
I think that for the purposes of not delaying, having problems with the bidding structure, having the price, because obviously the price is something that's very important to us right now.
Right.
I'm just asking that we take the time and effort to follow up and inspect and maybe stay on top of HNTB if they're the engineering firm that we're hiring to do this, so that we get the product that we want. And if we don't have the product that we want, we need to make that known immediately.
I
We will also
recommend that
be happy to provide the
I recommend that we let the city manager go back and negotiate with the second one and come back and report to us which one would be best for the city.
Second.
Okay, I'll make that motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Commissioner
I have a
Attorney?
question. I believe Commissioner Camarillo said that the FAA was going to be inspecting the structure as it's constructed?
These are not federal funds, these are all local funds.
But who are the engineers, Mr. Brown, that you indicate are the ones that are looking at this and did the whole proposal?
HNTB.
HNTB and a construction inspector, daily construction inspector.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, Edward.
No.
And that inspection goes on throughout the process, not just at the end of the
Beginning
process?
to end.
Okay, I have a motion to allow the city manager to go back and negotiate with Ziwa Corporation and then come back with their recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
I
opposed?
abstain.
Nay.
Aye.
One
Okay.
abstention.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2 nays?
So it's
And
3-3.
an abstention, what
And
is no, my
Two
abstention?
nays and abstention.
So it's 3-3. So not,
I said nay.
You said nay?
it's 3-3.
It's locked.
Slot. So nothing happens.
So nothing happens, we don't build a hangar?
No.
I said we build a hangar. I move
I do too.
I move that we approve it and we follow up on inspections and we take a chance with them this time and we see what happens, but we stay on top of it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Triani, second by Commissioner Camarillo. Let me tell you, one of the things that bothers me a great deal is a lot of the change orders, a lot of the mess we had to come back and pay for after, when it was already paid for to begin with. And also, the animal shelter that's not even functioning.
There's no change order clause in this contract.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about the past history.
Well, that's why we put no change order clause
And
in
it
this
very
contract.
concerns me that we're gonna find out things that were done shoddy or not the way we expected after the fact. That's
No,
my
the
concern.
building has to be inspected as it's being done. And Mr. Brown, we're going to charge you and staff to make sure that it gets done properly every phase of the way.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve.
Reports on that status.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstention.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Nay was the mayor?
Nay, Commissioner Atkinson, Commissioner Longoria, nay, or what's your vote? What say you?
Commissioner Longoria?
We're gonna be, if I go nay, we're gonna be locked again.
Yeah.
Until she stops
City manager has to go
abstaining.
back and bring something else.
We also have a
Oh,
performance
that's right,
bond.
I'm sorry.
We also have a performance bond that mandates that he do this work.
Yeah, but all these other ones had,
I agree
we
with
deal
Commissioner-
with some
on
people
this
that
one, I
just don't
agree-
know
I agree with
and don't
Commissioner
care.
Longoria and Commissioner Atkinson,
Okay.
which is very rare, but I agree with them. I'm concerned.
So noted.
So what's your vote, Commissioner?
I'm
Longoria?
gonna, God, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Don't do it. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I'm gonna give, Mr. Brown, I'm gonna give Terry Ray a chance,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
but God, he better produce.
Well, I think we need to have HNTB review it, and we need to follow up too,
Well,
because
I don't wanna take a cheap shot, I really don't wanna take a cheap shot. Because I know that HNTB is broken into different offices and different project managers, and all, HNTB just really let me down with the sports part. You know, so,
Well, you're
it
not the
just,
only
you know,
one.
it just
Okay, but
depends
it's
on what.
done. You already have your vote?
Yeah.
It
I'll vote.
carried. The next item
We all
is
have our reservations.
adjournment.
So
Okay, can we have a motion?
who do we get rid of first?
Motion by
HETB or Terry
Commissioner
Ray?
Camarillo.
Vote.
Can we have a second? Can we have a second?
to adjourn.
To adjourn?
Let's go.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed can stay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good meeting.